pain.
A bone-deep chill mixed with sharp stinging spread through her body, as if countless icy needles were piercing her skin, or as if she had been soaked in freezing water for days. Even breathing felt stiff and heavy. Lingyu suddenly opened her eyes. Above her was a crumbling earthen roof, with sparse thatch hanging down and several holes through which she could see the sky. Cold wind carrying snowflakes blew in, landing on her face and making her shiver. This wasn't her body. The thought struck her like thunder. She tried to lift her hand to rub her aching forehead, but her arm felt as heavy as lead. The movement pulled at her throat, causing a sharp pain that made her cough violently. Strange fragments of memory surged into her mind like waves. She had crossed into another world, the Kanglan continent, during the Shao dynasty, and now lived in Ling family village under Yongzhou prefecture. The body she now inhabited belonged to a 10-year-old farm girl named Ling Sanya, the daughter of the second branch of the Ling family. Her father, Ling Chu, was an honest man. Her mother, Zhao Yuro, was gentle and kind. She had an older brother, Ling Erxiao, 12 years old, who was strong and hardworking, and an older sister, Ling Area, 11, who was quiet and timid like their mother. Her grandfather, Ling Xiaotian, was clever but strict, while her grandmother, Wang Suehua, was sharp-tongued and biased. Her third uncle, Ling Rahai, was sly and lazy, married to Wang Yuping, her grandmother's niece. They had a 5-year-old son, Ling Xiaobao, and lived together with the grandparents. Her eldest uncle, Ling Russian, had passed the first level of the imperial exam 5 years ago. He lived in town with his wife, Ma Xilan, their son, Ling Debao, 13, and daughter, Ling Ruyu, 12, so that father and son could study more conveniently. The grandparents favored the eldest and youngest sons' families, treating Lingyu's family like servants. All the good food and things went to the others, while her family often went hungry. A few days ago, the eldest uncle's family returned home to discuss with the grandmother about attending a poetry gathering hosted by Master Wang, a wealthy local man. He had invited scholars from town to share their study experiences. Master Wang hinted that if Ling Area, Ling Yu's sister, could become one of his household companions, he would allow the eldest uncle to attend the event and even give him 30 taels of silver. The original girl had a strong and stubborn nature. She refused to let her older sister be forced into such misery and argued fiercely with her uncle's family. Sanya shouted, "Why sell my sister? Why not sell our cousin instead?" Her cousin held a grudge and, in anger, pushed her into the river. It was the middle of winter, and the icy water cut like knives. The girl had long been weak from hunger and hard labor. After the shock and anger, she couldn't catch her breath and drowned. When she opened her eyes again, the soul inside this body had changed. It now belonged to Lingyu, a top-secret agent from the 21st century. Lingyu, codenamed Nightingale, was one of the sharpest weapons of the National Security Bureau. She had completed countless dangerous missions behind enemy lines. Just the day before, she had fought to protect a confidential document vital to her country's safety. Outnumbered and wounded by several bullets, she fell from a high cliff. She thought she was dead for sure, but instead, she woke up in an unknown ancient era, reborn as a poor farmer's daughter. Cough, cough. Lingyu, now Ling Sanya, coughed a few more times. A metallic taste rose in her throat, but she forced it down and looked around. The room was a shabby thatched hut, full of drafts. Inside, there was almost nothing. A clay bed covered with a thin layer of stiff straw, and on top of it, a patched, musty quilt. In the corner were a few bundles of dry firewood and a chipped clay jar. That was all. Poor, truly poor. Even poorer than the most remote villages she had once infiltrated during missions.
Sanya.
Sanya, you're awake? A gentle, tearful voice came from the doorway. A woman in coarse clothes, her face tired but still kind, stumbled inside and rushed to the bedside, gripping Ling Sanya's hand tightly. Her hands were rough, covered with calluses and frostbite, yet they were warm. So warm that Lingyu's fingers trembled slightly. This was the girl's mother, Madame Zhao. In her memories, Madame Zhao was a typical woman of that time, gentle and patient. After marrying Ling Chu for more than 10 years, she had been worn down by her in-laws, losing all temper, but she still gave all her love to her children. Mother. Ling Sanya tried to speak, but her voice was so hoarse it sounded like it had been scraped by sandpaper. When she heard her daughter's voice, Madame Zhao's tears fell at once. The hot drops landed on Ling Sanya's hand, making her heart tremble slightly. Sanya, you're finally awake. If anything had happened to you, how could I go on living? Madame Zhao choked up, reaching out to touch her daughter's forehead, but she was afraid of hurting her. Her hand hovered in the air, trembling. It's all my fault. I couldn't protect you or your sister. Thinking of her sister being sold to the wealthy Wang family, Ling Sanya's eyes turned cold. In modern times, that would be a crime, and even in this ancient world, it was still something shameful. She would avenge the original owner's suffering, and she would also protect this family who had been pushed to the edge. She, Ling Yu, was never someone to be bullied. Mother, don't cry. Ling Sanya took a deep breath, ignoring the pain in her body, and spoke in a hoarse voice. I'm fine now. Her voice was soft but carried a quiet strength that made Madame Zhao pause. She lifted her tearful eyes to look at her daughter. Something about her seemed different. Though her face was still pale and her lips dry, her eyes no longer showed fear or stubbornness. Instead, they shone with a cold, sharp light, like a hidden blade that no one dared to face directly. Sanya. Madame Zhao murmured, wanting to say more, but footsteps sounded at the door. A tall, dark-skinned man walked in, followed by 2 half-grown children. The man was Ling Chu, her father, a simple, honest man who had never quarreled with anyone. In front of his parents, he didn't even dare raise his voice. The 2 children behind him were her brother Erxiao and her sister Aria. Father, brother, sister. Ling Yu greeted them one by one, her gaze sweeping over their tired faces. The chill in her heart deepened. This family had been crushed so badly by those 2 elders that they could hardly breathe. Ling Chu looked at his daughter, who had just woken up, and a faint smile appeared on his face, quickly replaced by worry. He sighed, crouched by the bed, and said quietly, Sanya, how do you feel? Do you want some water? As he spoke, he started to get up to fetch the water jar, but Ling Yu stopped him. Father, I'm fine. Ling Sanya shook her head, her eyes falling on Ling Yu, who was hiding in the back. Her voice turned colder. Is it true that Grandpa and Grandma want to marry second sister to Master Wang? The room instantly fell silent. Madame Zhao stopped crying. Ling Lauer froze, crouching lower with his head bowed. Ling Erxiao clenched his fists so tightly that his knuckles turned white. Ling Wei's eyes turned red as she looked away, and Ling Aria trembled in fear, tears streaming down her face like broken beads. Sanya, this matter. Madame Zhao opened her mouth, wanting to explain, but didn't know what to say. She sighed helplessly. It's your grandparents' decision. We can't go against them. Can't go against them? Ling Yu gave a cold laugh. Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried a sharp chill. They want to send second sister into misery, and you're just going to watch? That Master Wang is over 50, and I've heard his previous wives all met terrible ends. If second sister marries him, how could she have a good life? Her words struck everyone like a knife to the heart. Ling Lauer suddenly looked up, his eyes full of pain and helplessness. What can I do? They're my parents. If I resist, they'll threaten to harm themselves right in front of me. Then everyone will call me unfilial. Unfilial? Ling Yu sneered. Watching your own daughter being sold into suffering. Is that filial? Letting wrongdoers do as they please, is that filial? Father, that's not filial piety. That's blind obedience. You. Ling Lao was speechless, his face turning pale. He had lived half his life always obeying others, especially his parents, treating their words as law. He had never thought that filial piety could be questioned like this. Madame Zhao looked at Ling Yu, wanting to scold her, but when she saw her pale face, the words died on her lips. Ling Erxiao stared at his sister in shock. He had never imagined that the quiet girl who rarely spoke could say such powerful words. Ling Sonya looked at them, knowing her words had shaken them deeply. After all, this was a time when filial piety was considered the greatest virtue, and defying one's parents was seen as a grave sin. But she was not from this time. In her world, there was no such thing as blind obedience. If someone wronged her, she would never stay silent. Whoever dares to hurt her will have to pay the price. Father, mother, Ling Sonya took a deep breath. Her eyes swept over everyone, and though her voice was still hoarse, it carried a firm strength. Second sister cannot be sold. I will not allow it. Just then, sharp, angry shouting came from outside the door. The voice was shrill and harsh, cutting through the quiet winter afternoon like a rusty bell.
Ling Lao where? Xiao.
Get out here. You raised such an ungrateful girl, and she even tried to throw her life away? You must be tired of living. If you don't hand over that second girl today, I'll tear down your shabby house. It was the voice of the original owner's grandmother, old Madame Wang. Ling Yu's eyes turned cold as ice. So, they had come. Good. That saved her the trouble of going to them. Old grudges and new ones. She would settle them all today.
Bang!
The old wooden door was kicked open, splinters flying as the cold wind and snow rushed in, making the room even colder. Old Madame Wang stood in front, hands on her hips, her sharp eyes full of spite and impatience. Behind her came Ling Russian, dressed in a blue robe with a proud expression, and Ma Xiaolan, wearing a neat cloth dress and a mocking smile.
Ling Lao where? Xiao.
What are you hiding for? Old Madame Wang shouted as soon as she entered. Her gaze, sharp as a knife, swept over Ling Sonya on the bed, then landed on Ling Area, who was hiding behind Zhao. Hand over that girl right now. Do you want to ruin your elder brother's chance to attend the poetry gathering? Ling Russian stepped forward, putting on the air of a scholar. His brows furrowed, and his tone was full of arrogance. Second brother, sister-in-law, this matter concerns my future in the imperial exams. It's a great chance for our Ling family to gain honor. Master Wang's interest in Area is her good fortune. Don't ruin the family's future because of foolishness. Ma Xiaolan quickly agreed, her sharp voice grating like nails on wood. Exactly. If Area marries into Master Wang's family, she'll live well and can even help our family later. Why can't you see what's good for you? And that Sonya girl, she's nothing but trouble. If she hadn't caused a scene earlier, this would have been settled already. Now she's even survived after trying to end her life. What, is she trying to ruin Russian's future too? Those words, both openly and subtly, accused Ling Sonya, making the act of selling the second girl sound perfectly reasonable. Madame Zhao trembled with anger, shielding the second and third girls tightly. Choking back tears, she said, Mother, sister-in-law, the second girl is still a child. Master Wang is old enough to be her father. How can you be so heartless? Heartless? Madame Wang sneered and stepped forward to grab the second girl's arm. We're doing this for her own good. If she stays with you, she'll spend her life in this shabby hut, eating poor food. But if she marries Master Wang, she'll live in comfort. Ling Lao rushed to stop her, but Ling Russian pushed him aside. Though Russian was a scholar and not very strong, dealing with his honest and timid younger brother was easy. Ling Lao stumbled into the mud wall, grunting in pain, but still didn't dare fight back.
Brother, you.
Ling Lao's face turned red with anger and frustration. Second brother, a wise man knows when to yield, Ling Russian said coldly. For the family's honor, what does it matter to sacrifice one niece? If you keep interfering, you'll be defying your elder and bringing shame to our family. Just as Madame Wang's hand was about to touch the second girl's sleeve, the third girl suddenly sat up from the bed. The sudden movement made her dizzy again, and her weak body trembled as she coughed, a trace of blood appearing at the corner of her mouth. Still, her sharp gaze locked onto Madame Wang. Who dares touch my sister? Her voice was hoarse, but carried a strange power that made Madame Wang freeze for a moment. When Madame Wang came to her senses, she grew furious. You little brat, you're still alive? And you dare to act tough? Let me tell you, This matter isn't up to you. She raised her hand and swung it toward the third girl's face. The slap came fast and hard, cutting through the air. Madame Zhao screamed and tried to stop her, but Ma Xiulan held her back tightly. Ling Erxiao clenched his fists, but Ling Lauer stopped him with a look. He didn't dare go against his mother and elder brother. The third girl's pupils shrank. Her instincts from her past life as a special agent made her try to dodge, but her weak body was too slow. Madame Wang's nails still scratched her cheek, leaving a burning pain. A surge of anger and determination rose in her heart. She couldn't let her sister be taken away. She couldn't let her family be bullied anymore. She had to live and protect them. A strong obsession felt like a key that suddenly unlocked an invisible door. Detected intense emotional fluctuation. Congratulations, host, for traveling to another world and binding with a spirit spring space. A voice echoed in Sonia's mind. Then, a cool energy flowed from the center of her forehead, spreading through her whole body. She instinctively closed her eyes, and a strange scene appeared before her. It was a space about half an acre wide. Beneath her feet was rich, dark soil that smelled fresh and earthy. In the center, a clear spring bubbled gently, its water shining with a faint white glow and filling the air with a refreshing fragrance. Beside the spring stood a small, old wooden hut with its door tightly shut, hiding whatever was inside. The spirit spring space. Sonia's heart trembled. In her previous life, while on a mission, she had read about such personal spaces in an ancient book. She never thought it would truly appear within her. The spring water's power was clearly extraordinary. Even its aura had already healed much of her pain. With a thought, a small handful of the spring water appeared in her palm, warm and gentle. Without hesitation, she drank it. The sweet, cool water slid down her throat and turned into a warm current that nourished her from within. Her weak body felt renewed, and her mind became clear and sharp. Still pretending? Madame Wang saw Sonia lying still with her eyes closed and thought she was faking. She reached out to grab her hair. Today I'll teach you a proper lesson. Stop. Sonia's eyes snapped open, sharp as blades, carrying a force that made others tremble. Her face had regained some color, her lips no longer dry, and her whole presence had completely changed. No longer the timid, frail village girl she once was. Madame Wang froze under her gaze, instinctively pulling her hand back as a strange fear rose in her heart. Sonia slowly stepped down from the bed. Though not fully recovered, the spring water had given her enough strength. She walked to Arya's side, shielding her behind her, and looked coldly at Madame Wang, Ling Russian and Ma Xiulan. Grandmother, uncle, aunt. Her voice was clear and strong, no longer the least bit hoarse. Second sister belongs to our family, not something you can trade for money or a future. If you want to send her away, you'll have to get past me first. You little girl, how dare you threaten us? Ma Xiulan snapped after recovering from her shock. Your uncle is a scholar and will one day become an official. If you stand in his way, you're defying your elders. Defying my elders? Sandy gave a cold laugh. Uncle is willing to sacrifice his own niece's life just to advance his career, even working with outsiders to sell people. Does that sound like something a true scholar would do? If word gets out, the whole county will laugh at him, and he might even lose his title. Her words struck right at Ling Russian's weakness. His reputation meant everything to him, and if this matter spread, his future would indeed be ruined. His face darkened as he shouted, "Nonsense. Mr. Wang and I are friends. This is only a temporary plan, and it's for second girl's own good." For her good? Sanya's eyes turned cold. Mr. Wang is over 50, and everyone knows what happened to his previous wives. Sending my sister there is sending her to her doom. You talk about family honor, but all you care about is yourself. How can someone so selfish speak of honor? Ling Russian was speechless, his face turning pale and then dark again. Seeing this, old Madame Wang began to wail and throw a tantrum. This is outrageous. A little girl dares to lecture her elders. Ling Lauer, are you just going to stand there? If you don't stop her, I'll end my life right here. She moved as if to hit her head against the bed frame. Sanya's eyes flashed. She stepped forward quickly and grabbed the old woman's arm. Though she wasn't strong, her grip was precise, pressing on a sensitive spot that made the old woman cry out in pain and stop struggling. Grandmother, if you truly want to die, I won't stop you, Sanya said coldly. But if you try to drag my sister down with you, I'll make sure you pay the price. Her movements were swift and firm, carrying an unexpected force that left Ling Rushan and Ma Xiaolan stunned. They could hardly believe that the quiet, timid Sanya they once knew had become so fearless and strong. Sanya turned to look at Ling Rushan, her tone carrying a hint of warning. Uncle, if you truly care about your future in the exams, you should rely on your own talent, not on sacrificing your family. If you really have the ability, you'll be invited to Master Wang's poetry gathering naturally. If not, even if you buy your way in, it will only bring you shame. As for those 30 taels of silver, she paused, her eyes sweeping over Ma Xiaolan. If you really need money, why not let your eldest daughter go? She's been living comfortably in the county, and Master Wang might prefer that. Her words struck Ma Xiaolan like a sharp knife. Her most beloved child was her daughter, Ling Ruyu. How could she ever bear to send her away like that? Ling Rushan's face darkened. He knew Sanya was telling the truth. If this matter spread, his reputation would be ruined. Old Madame Wang also realized that Sanya was no longer the timid girl she used to be. If they kept arguing, things would only get worse. She glared fiercely at Sanya and said through gritted teeth, "Fine. Very well. Ling Lao Madame Zhao. Just you wait. This isn't over." She pulled free from Sanya's grasp, dragging Ling Rushan and Ma Xiaolan with her as she left, muttering angrily, "Ungrateful lot. We'll see how long you can last." The wooden door slammed shut with a loud bang, and the house finally grew quiet again. "Sanya, are you all right?" Madame Zhao quickly took her daughter's hand, looking her over carefully. Seeing that her color had returned, she let out a sigh of relief. "You scare me half to death just now." Arya rushed over and hugged Sanya's arm, her voice trembling. "Sanya, thank you." Little Ling Er clenched his fists, looking at his sister with admiration. "Sanya, you were amazing just now." Ling Lao stepped forward, his expression complicated as he looked at his daughter.
Sanya, you.
Sanya smiled and gently patted her mother's hand. "Mother, I'm fine. As long as I'm here, no one will be able to sell second sister." She knew well that old Madame Wang and Ling Rushan's family wouldn't give up so easily. They would surely cause more trouble later. But now, she had the spiritual spring space. That was her greatest strength. The spring water could heal wounds, strengthen the body, and nourish the land. If she used it wisely, she was sure she could give her family a good life. As for the grudges of the past and those who had bullied them, she would make sure to settle every one of them. Sanya's eyes fell on the white snow outside the window, a determined light shining within them. This winter was destined to be anything but peaceful. Yet for Ling Yu, the harsher the situation, the brighter she would shine. Her new life truly began at this very moment. After Madame Wang and her group left, the warmth in the small room next to the outhouse of the brick house quickly faded, replaced by a biting chill. Madame Zhao busied herself, wiping Sanya's face and warming a bowl of thin rice soup that was almost clear enough to see her reflection in. Ling Lao squatted in the corner, frowning deeply as he smoked his pipe. The glowing tip flickered in the dim room, full of worry. "Husband, do you think Mother and Big Brother will really let this go?" Madame Zhao asked anxiously as she handed him the bowl. She knew Madame Wang's temper too well. She never forgot a grudge. Since she had managed to take second girl away, she would surely come back to cause trouble. Ling Lao took a deep drag from his pipe and exhaled slowly. His voice was hoarse. "I don't know. We'll deal with things as they come. For now, we need to help Sanya recover. We still owe the doctor 10 coins for her treatment." Worried, he left early the next morning with 2 hard bran cakes in his pocket to work at Master Zhang's house in town. They were repairing the granary and hiring short-term workers, 2 copper coins a day, and a free lunch. When Ling Sonia woke and found her father gone, she felt uneasy after learning why. From the memories of this body's original owner, she knew Ling Laowa had always been treated like a beast of burden, doing the hardest work without ever being appreciated. She told Madame Zhao, "Mother, father always works too hard. Go wait for him at the village entrance this evening and remind him not to push himself too much." Madame Zhao agreed, her heart heavy with worry. But no one expected that her unease would soon come true. By dusk, the sky had darkened, and the cold wind carried sharp flakes of snow. Ling Sonia was helping Madame Zhao tidy up the stove when they suddenly heard loud voices from the village entrance, mixed with Madame Zhao's cries. Her heart tightened, and she ran out at once. Under the old locust tree at the village entrance, a crowd had gathered. Ling Yu pushed her way through and froze in shock. Ling Laowa was lying on a wooden door, his face pale as paper. His left leg was twisted at an unnatural angle, his trouser legs soaked with blood that had frozen into a hard crust. Several workers nearby looked down, guilt written all over their faces. "Father." Ling Yu hurried over and held her father's cold hand. Second Master Ling trembled in pain. When he saw his daughter, he forced a weak smile. "Sanya, I'm fine. I just got hit by a wooden beam that fell from the top of the granary." It turned out that while moving the beams, Second Master Ling slipped from exhaustion. At that moment, a loose beam above him fell and struck his left leg. The landlord, Master Zhang, had already sent 5 taels of silver for medical expenses, but seeing her husband's condition, Madame Zhao burst into tears. "What are we going to do? If something happens to you, how will we survive?" The villagers began to talk among themselves. Most felt sorry for Second Master Ling, while some sighed at his bad luck. Ling Yu forced herself to stay calm and said to her mother, "Mother, don't cry. Let's take father home first and call the doctor." Several kind villagers helped carry Second Master Ling back to their small house. Aunt Li and Aunt Wang from the same village followed them in. Aunt Li quickly tidied up a clean bed, while Aunt Wang frowned and comforted her. "Don't worry. The doctor will be here soon. Second Master Ling is a good man. He'll pull through." Soon after, Aunt Wang ran out again and used her own money to bring the village doctor. After examining the injury, the doctor shook his head. "The left leg bone is badly broken. Even if it's set properly, it will take months to heal, and it's hard to say if it will ever be fully recovered. He must rest completely and eat well to regain strength." Madame Zhao cried helplessly. "Where can we find enough silver for his treatment? We still haven't paid for Sanya's last doctor visit." The kind doctor sighed and said, "I'll write a prescription first. Go to town to get the medicine. You can pay the consultation fee later." After giving a few more instructions, he left. Looking at the list of herbs, Madame Zhao felt even more worried. The medicine was expensive, and the 5 taels of silver wouldn't last long. Just then, the door of their small house was kicked open. Old Madame Wang and Old Master Ling walked in. Old Master Ling stayed silent, while Old Madame Wang looked angry and disgusted. As soon as she entered, she shouted, "Bad luck. You bring nothing but misfortune. First you ruined Ru Shan's good match, and now you've broken your leg. Are you trying to bring down all of our family's fortune?" Madame Zhao quickly wiped her tears and pleaded, "Father, mother, please think of a way to save him."
Save him? How?
Old Madame Wang rolled her eyes, put her hands on her hips, and spoke sharply, her tone filled with greed. "Doesn't it cost money to keep him? Our family is already struggling, and we still have to pay for Russian studies. Where would we find extra money to treat his injuries? I think we should send Arya to Master Wang. That way, the eldest can attend the poetry gathering, and we'll have money for the second son's medicine." Arya's face turned pale when she heard this. Her eyes were full of pain, and she thought that if her sacrifice could bring her father back to health, it might be worth it. She was about to agree when Sonia quickly stepped in front of her, blocking old Madame Wang's fierce gaze. "Grandmother, if you still want to sell Arya, I'll go to Uncle's school and tell everyone that he's trying to sell his own niece just to pass the exam. Let's see how his classmates treat him then." If you think my father is a burden, then just separate our family from yours. Old Madame Wang stomped her foot and pointed at Sonia, shouting, "You little brat. If you want to separate, fine, but your family must agree to give us 20 taels of silver every year as support. Not a single coin less. Otherwise, forget about separating, and don't expect us to pay a penny for your father's treatment." Old Man Ling was stunned for a moment, then frowned and thought for a while before nodding firmly. Wang is right. The second son's leg won't heal anytime soon. He's already a burden. If you want to separate, you'll follow this rule. 20 taels of silver every year, no less. Otherwise, we stay together, and no one will have peace.
What?
20 taels of silver? How could we possibly afford that? Zhao's face turned pale with shock and despair. Father, mother, you won't help your injured son, and now you're taking advantage of us? Ling's second son trembled, his eyes red. Father, mother, are you trying to destroy us? We've always worked the hardest for this family. Every coin I earned from odd jobs in town, I gave to mother. We have nothing left.
Destroy you?
You're just useless. Old Madam, Wang shouted back. Not a single coin less than 20 taels. Either pay and separate, or stay and suffer. We have Russian to rely on. We don't need you. That's heartless. Aunt Wang couldn't hold back anymore. She put her hands on her hips and scolded old Madame Wang. The second son got hurt working to earn money for the family. You don't even care about that, and now you're trying to take advantage of him? You're pushing them into a corner. Aunt Li quickly added, "Exactly. Mrs. Wang, people should have a conscience. Even if the second family could afford 20 taels of silver, you still shouldn't treat them like this. The village head is right here, and you still dare to say such heartless things." As soon as she finished speaking, the village head slammed the table and shouted angrily, "Mrs. Wang, Old Man Ling, you've gone too far. The second son is your own child. He's already badly hurt, and instead of feeling sorry for him, you're trying to take advantage of the situation? 20 taels of silver, forget the second family, even a well-off household in this village, might not save that much in a year. You're pushing them into a corner." The village head's words made the small room where the second son's family lived fall silent. Mrs. Wang shrank her neck, but still muttered unwillingly, "Village head, this is our family matter. Family matter or not, you still need a conscience." The village head interrupted sharply, his eyes sweeping over old Man Ling. "You're the head of the family. The second son got hurt working for the family. Instead of helping him, you're supporting Mrs. Wang's unreasonable demand. Can you really say you've done right by him, or by your own conscience?" Old Man Ling was speechless for a moment, then forced himself to say, "Village head, I'm only thinking of the family. Russian still needs money for his studies. Without that 20 taels, we can't manage. So you'll ignore the second son's suffering for Russian's sake?" Aunt Li said angrily, her face flushed. "Russian is your son, but isn't the second son your child too? He's worked like a servant for you all these years. Even if he hasn't earned much, he's given his all. Is this how you repay him?" Lying on the bed, the second son listened to his parents' words, then to the village head and the two women. His heart felt as if pierced by ice, his body trembling as tears slid down his cheeks. A muffled sob escaped his throat. He had always been honest and loyal, never thinking of separating from the family. He never imagined that after breaking his leg, his parents would be so cruel as to take advantage of his misfortune. Sonia stood up, her fists clenched so tightly that her nails dug into her palms. Her eyes were cold as she stared at Mrs. Wang and Old Man Ling, her voice calm but trembling slightly. "Grandfather, grandmother, do you really want to be this heartless? My father is your own son. The second son isn't." Mrs. Wang started, but Old Man Ling quickly cut her off, glaring at her sharply. She fell silent at once. Sonia sensed something strange, but now is not the time to question it. "Third girl, I really have no choice. Both sides are family. If your uncle passes the scholar's exam, our 20 acres of land will be tax-free." "I can't help it," Old Man Ling said, pretending to be troubled. Seeing that third girl's tone had softened, Madame Wang became more forceful. Either you give us 20 taels of silver every year after dividing the family, or we won't divide at all. As for the second son's illness, you'll have to deal with it yourselves. Lingyu looked at her father, who was in so much pain he was about to faint, then at her mother, who was crying uncontrollably. Her heart felt as heavy as a stone. She knew that Madame Wang and Old Man Ling were determined to take advantage of them. If they refused, no one would treat her father's illness, and their family would have to stay in the Ling household, suffering endless oppression. They might even be forced into worse situations. Instead of that, it was better to agree to the separation. At least her father could rest and recover, and they would gain their freedom. As for the 20 taels of silver, she believed that with her secret spring and her special skills, she could earn it. Taking a deep breath, third girl said firmly, "Fine, I agree to give you 20 taels of silver every year. But I have conditions. First, everything about the separation must be written clearly in a document, including the yearly payment and that you will no longer interfere in our affairs. Second, we must receive our fair share of the family property. If anything is missing, the agreement will be void." Madame Wang had planned to give them as little as possible, but she didn't expect Ling Yu to set conditions. Just as she was about to argue, Old Man Ling stopped her. He knew that making a scene would damage their reputation. The village head, seeing how things had developed, said seriously to Old Man Ling, "Old Ling, Madame Wang, are you sure you want to separate from the second son's family? You won't regret it?" Old Man Ling nodded. "Village head, the second son's leg is badly injured. He won't be able to work for a long time, and we can't afford to support him. It's better to let them live on their own." The village head then turned to the second son. "What about you? What do you think?" The second son lay on the bed, his voice dull and lifeless. "My parents don't want me anymore. What can I do?" The village head sighed helplessly and asked second girl to fetch paper and ink from his house. He then began to draft the separation document. Madame Wang kept chattering, saying that all the land and property belonged to the Ling family and couldn't be divided. Third girl immediately argued, "My father has worked for the Ling family for more than 10 years. He helped earn that land. Why shouldn't we get a share? Even if we don't take a room in this brick house, we should at least get the old family home on the west side of the village. We should also get a share of the family's stored grain and farming tools." The village chief also thought Madame Wang was being unreasonable and said seriously, "Madame Wang, that's not right. The second son is also part of the Ling family, and there are rules for dividing the household. The old house on the west side of the village has been in use for years, so giving it to the second son's family makes sense. They'll get 30 jin of brown rice, a set of tools, a hoe and a sickle, and 2 acres of thin farmland. From now on, they'll farm it themselves." Madame Wang wanted to argue again, but Old Man Ling glared at her, and she had to stay quiet. He knew the village chief was already siding with the second branch, and arguing more would only make things worse. Soon, the written agreement for dividing the family was ready. It clearly listed everything. The second branch would get the old house on the west side of the village, 2 acres of thin farmland, 30 jin of brown rice, and a set of farming tools. Each year, they would give Old Man Ling and Madame Wang 20 taels of silver as a sign of respect. From then on, they would live separately, with no financial ties or interference. Old Man Ling and the second son each pressed their fingerprints on the document, and the village chief signed as a witness. With that, the second branch officially became independent from the main family. After signing, Madame Wang watched the second branch move out and said sharply, "You're not allowed to take anything extra. If you can't finish moving within half an hour, don't bother moving at all." "Mother, how can you say that?" Madame Zhao stood up angrily, blocking the way. The second son, lying on the bed, was so furious that his chest heaved and he could barely speak. You're going too far." Ling Yu quickly supported her trembling father and said to Aunt Wang and Aunt Li, "Aunties, could you please ask Uncle Huzi and Uncle Danyu to help carry my father to the old house? Once we settle down, we'll thank you properly." Aunt Wang and Aunt Li waved their hands. "No need to thank us. Your father has always helped the villagers. It's only right we help now." The second son looked at his daughter's determined eyes, feeling a mix of emotions. He nodded and said with a trembling voice, "Sanya, I'm sorry. I've made you all suffer." Lingyu shook her head, already making plans in her heart. She had a spiritual spring that could heal injuries and make the land fertile. If she used it well, her father's leg would recover, and their 2 acres of land would yield good harvests. She turned around and poured a bowl of warm water for Ling Lauer, quietly adding a few drops of spiritual spring water before handing it to him. "Father, have some water. Take good care of your injury. Everything will get better." Ling Lauer drank the warm water and at once felt a faint warmth spread through his body. The pain in his legs seemed to ease a little. He looked at Lingyu with some doubt, but didn't ask anything. Aunt Li and Aunt Wang called their husbands to help carry Ling Lauer, while they themselves helped move the family's belongings to the ancestral house at the west end of the village. It was an old thatched hut with several holes in the roof. The cold wind, mixed with snowflakes, blew straight inside, and thick frost covered the corners of the walls. It was even colder and more run-down than the small room they had lived in before. Aunt Wang's eyes turned red as she looked around. "How can anyone live in a place like this?" she said, taking a small bag of millet from her pocket and handing it to Madame Zhao. "Sister-in-law, this is what I saved from my own home. Give it to Lauer to help him recover." Aunt Li also took out a bundle of firewood and an old pot. "Start a fire and cook something warm. Don't let the children and Lauer freeze. If you have any trouble, tell us. We neighbors can't just watch you suffer." Outside, the snow was still falling, but inside the hut, thanks to the 2 kind women's help and comfort, there was a touch of warmth. Lingyu looked at them with deep gratitude and felt even more determined to lead her family out of hardship. She knew that being separated from the main family was only the beginning, and being sent to this broken ancestral house made things worse. But with a neighbor's support and her own secret spring, she believed she could help her family live a better life and create a new future on this land. After sending off Aunt Wang and Aunt Li, the hut finally became quiet. Madame Zhao was busy making a fire for warmth. Little Ling Er crouched by the wall, carefully patching the cracks in the window, while Ling Area helped by handing him straw and mud. Ling Lauer lay on a makeshift wooden bed, his face still pale, but thanks to the neighbor's kindness and his daughter's determination, the despair in his eyes had faded, replaced by a faint confusion. Looking at her family, Lingyu suddenly had an idea. She walked to the bedside and said softly, "Father, mother, brother, sister, now that we've separated from the family, it's time for a new beginning. Before, we were all called by our birth order. It doesn't sound proper. I want to give brother, sister, and myself new names. What do you think?" Everyone in the room was stunned. Madame Zhao stopped what she was doing and asked in surprise, "Change names? Sonia, how can you just change a name like that? And doesn't it cost money to do so?" "Mother, it doesn't cost anything. We can decide ourselves, and once everyone starts using the new names, they'll get used to them," Lingyu explained with a smile. "I want to rename second brother as Ling Xingchen. Xingchen means stars, symbolizing brightness and success, so he can bring honor to our family. For second sister, I want to call her Ling Yao. Yao means fine jade, representing purity and goodness, wishing her a peaceful and happy life. As for me, I won't be called Sonia anymore. I'll be Ling Yu. Yu means a mythical pearl, hoping I can bring good fortune and protect our family." Ling Xingchen was stunned for a moment, then his eyes lit up. Xingchen sounded much better than Xiao, and it carried such a good meaning. He nodded firmly. "I agree. From now on, I'll be Ling Xingchen." Ling Area blushed and said softly, "I'd like to be called Ling Yao too." "Thank you, Sonia." Lying on the bed, Father Ling's eyes grew moist after hearing his daughter's words. He choked up and said, Good names. All good names. We'll do as Sonia said. From now on, our family will have new names and new hope." Madame Zhao nodded repeatedly. "Yes, as long as you all like them, I agree." After deciding on the new names, the room felt even warmer. Lingyu then remembered the 5 taels of silver their family received after the separation. given by Madame Wang's family as compensation. She said, "Father, I plan to use that money to buy medicine for your leg for a month so you can recover well. The rest we'll keep for emergencies." Father Ling hesitated, then shook his head. "No, that's all the savings we have. We can't spend it all on me. Father, your leg is the most important. Only when you recover can our family truly get better," Lingyu interrupted firmly. "I already have a plan to earn money. Don't worry, I'll take care of the medicine and our daily needs." Madame Zhao added, "She's right. You can't delay your treatment. Let's listen to Sonia." Father Ling looked at his daughter's determined eyes, then at his wife and son, and finally nodded. "All right, I'll listen to you." As Lingyu watched her family busy around the house, a warm feeling filled her heart, soon followed by a sense of urgency. The most urgent task now was to use those 5 taels of silver to buy a month's worth of medicine for her father, so his leg could heal as soon as possible. After that, she needed to tidy up their old, crumbling home so the family could spend the winter safely. She thought of the spiritual spring space within her body. She had only caught a quick glimpse of it during a moment of danger before and hadn't had time to explore it carefully. Now she finally had a moment to do so. Lingyu made an excuse to go outside and gather some firewood. Avoiding her family's eyes, she quietly moved to the corner of the yard near the woodpile. Closing her eyes and focusing her thoughts, she suddenly felt the scene before her change, and she entered that strange space once again. This time, unlike her hurried glance before, Lingyu looked around carefully. The space was about 1/2 acre in size, filled with rich, dark soil that gleamed with a soft shine. The air was so fresh it made her feel calm and clear-headed. In the center, a spring bubbled with bright, white water. Droplets fell into a small pool below, splashing lightly and giving off a refreshing fragrance.
Huh.
Why is there someone here? Lingyu was observing the space when she suddenly noticed a tiny figure standing in front of a small wooden house near the spring. The little person, no bigger than a palm, wore a light green dress and had transparent wings. She stood on tiptoe, curiously studying Lingyu, her large eyes as clear and bright as the spring water itself.
Who are you?
Lingyu asked softly, not feeling too surprised. Since such a magical space existed, it wasn't strange that it might have a guardian spirit. Hearing her voice, the little figure fluttered her wings and flew up to her. In a crisp, cheerful voice, she said, "Hello, Master. I'm Lu He, the guardian spirit of the spiritual spring space. Congratulations on successfully bonding with the space. I can finally come out." "Lu He?" Lingyu repeated the name and asked, "Besides the spring water and the black soil, does this space have any other functions?" Lu He nodded and waved her tiny hand toward the simple wooden house. "Of course. That house is full of treasures. It's the space's storage room, divided into several sections. And the black soil under your feet is spiritual farmland. Plants grown here grow 10 times faster than outside, and their quality improves too. The fruits they bear are bigger, sweeter, and more nutritious." Lingyu's heart leapt with joy. 10 times the growth speed? That was a blessing in such a desperate situation. Especially in this cold winter, when nothing could grow outside, this spiritual field meant her family would no longer have to worry about having fresh vegetables to eat. She followed Luha into the small wooden cabin. As soon as she pushed open the door, she saw that the interior was divided into 4 separate rooms. Each doorway had a wooden plaque hanging above it, carved with different words. The first room's plaque read Seed Pavilion. Lingua stepped inside and saw rows of wooden shelves neatly arranged, each filled with cloth bags of various sizes. Every bag was labeled with the name of the seeds inside. There were common ones like rice, wheat, corn, and sorghum, as well as vegetable seeds such as cabbage, radish, cucumber, and tomato. Some bags even contained rare medicinal seeds she had never seen before, like ginseng, lingzhi, and gastrodia. Luho explained, "These seeds are high-quality ones nurtured by the space itself. They grow quickly, resist cold and drought, and produce very high yields." Lingua picked up a small bag of tomato seeds. The cloth felt smooth and warm in her hand, and she could sense the vitality within. Carefully, she put it back and walked toward the second room. The plaque there read pill chamber. As soon as she entered, a rich herbal fragrance filled the air. In the center stood a jade table with several delicate jade bottles on it, and the shelves along the walls were lined with jars and containers of medicine. Master, these pills are automatically created by the space, each with different effects, Luha said, flying to the jade table and picking up a bottle. This one is the detox pill. It can neutralize any poison, whether from snakes, plants, or man-made toxins. This one is the healing pill. It quickly mends wounds, even deep ones, helping them scab and heal fast. And this one is the bone renewal pill. It treats fractures and cracks, speeding up bone recovery without leaving any aftereffects. Ling Yue's eyes lit up. The bone renewal pill. That was exactly what her father needed right now. She quickly picked up the jade bottle containing the pills and opened it. A rich medicinal scent spread out, and inside lay 3 smooth, white pills, pure and flawless. She glanced at the other bottles. There were strengthening pills to boost health and warming pills to drive away cold. Each one was a treasure. The third room's plaque read armory. Linghua pushed the door open and was instantly stunned by what she saw inside. The room was filled with all kinds of weapons. There were not only common cold weapons like knives, spears, swords, and halberds, but also a collection of modern firearms with sleek designs that she knew very well, shiny black pistols, smooth rifles, and even sniper guns with scopes. Luhi flew to the firearms and explained, "These weapons are made from special minerals found only in this space. The cold weapons are extremely sharp, and the firearms never run out of ammunition because the space automatically replenishes it. All weapons also have a special ability. They can be endlessly copied. As long as the master picks up a weapon and thinks about duplicating it, an identical one will appear. However, only the master can use the copies." Lingyu first picked up a small dagger. It felt cool in her hand, and the blade was so sharp it reflected her image. She silently thought the word copy, and another identical dagger appeared in her hand. Then she walked to the firearm section and picked up a pistol. It felt heavy and solid, almost the same as the military pistols she had used in her previous life. She gently pulled the trigger, but no sound came. Lu He quickly explained, "Don't worry, master. Firearms used inside this space make no noise and leave no smoke." Lingyu understood and tried duplicating the pistol. Instantly, another identical one appeared in her hand. She was overjoyed. With these cold and modern weapons, she would be much more confident in protecting her family if she ever met troublemakers again. The fourth room was the storage room. It was empty except for rows of shelves. Lu He explained, "This room is for storing your belongings. You can keep anything here, whether it's from outside or collected in this space. Nothing will spoil or lose freshness inside." After exploring all the rooms, Lingyu finally felt at ease. With this spiritual spring space, not only could she easily pay the yearly 20 taels of silver for her family's obligations, but she could also help them live a comfortable life. She walked to the spring, scooped up a handful of water, and drank it. The sweet, cool water slid down her throat and turned into a warm current that nourished every part of her body. She filled a bottle with the spring water, picked up the jade bottles containing the bone healing and wound healing pills, and with a thought, she left the space. Lingyu returned from the space to the woodpile, brushed the grass off her clothes, and quickly walked into the thatched hut. At this moment, Madame Zhao had already started a fire, and the room finally felt a bit warmer. Lingyu walked to her father's bedside and said softly, "Father, I'm going to the town to get some medicine for you. I'll also see if there's anything that can help ease your pain." Ling Lauer weakly shook his head. "Sanya, there's no need. The town is too far, the road is rough, and the medicine costs money." "Father, don't worry about the money. I'll find a way," Lingyu interrupted gently, handing him a bottle of water. "I found this spring water in the mountains. It can help relieve your pain. Please drink some first. I'll be back soon. Mother, after I leave, please massage father's legs to help his blood flow." Madame Zhao took the bottle, still a little doubtful, but nodded. "Be careful on the road, and come back early." Ling Xingchen added, Ling Yu, how about I go with you? I can look after you on the way. No need, brother. Stay home and help mother tidy up and take care of father and sister, Ling Yu said with a smile. She couldn't let anyone know about the things in her secret space, so it was better to go alone. She then took out the millet Aunt Wang had given her earlier and handed it to Madame Zhao. Mother, please use this millet to make some porridge for father, so he can have something warm to eat. After giving her instructions, Ling Yu carried an empty basket on her back and set off for the town. Lingjia village was more than 10 miles away from town. The snow had stopped, but the road was still covered with a thick layer of snow, making it hard to walk. Ling Yu trudged forward step by step. Fortunately, she had been a special agent in her previous life, so her body was much stronger than most people's. With the help of the spring water's energy, she didn't feel too tired. After about an hour, Ling Yu finally reached the town. It was much livelier than the village. Shops lined both sides of the street, and people in different kinds of clothes bustled about. The air was filled with the sounds of vendors calling out and people talking. Ling Yu first went to the pharmacy the doctor had mentioned before. She took out the prescription and 5 taels of silver, then said to the shopkeeper, Sir, please prepare 1 month's worth of medicine according to this prescription. The shopkeeper took the prescription, looked it over carefully, and weighed the silver in his hand. Young lady, these herbs are all good for healing injuries. 1 set costs 500 coins. For a month, that's 30 sets, which comes to 15 taels of silver. Your 5 taels aren't enough. Ling Yu's heart sank. She hadn't expected the medicine to cost so much. Biting her lip, she said sincerely, Sir, these 5 taels are all the savings my family has. I really can't afford more. Could you please give me 10 days' worth of medicine first? I promise to bring the rest of the money in 3 days. I know this causes you trouble, but my father's leg injury can't wait. Please, I'm asking for your understanding. The shopkeeper looked at Ling Yu's anxious yet determined face and hesitated for a moment. Having practiced medicine for many years, he had seen how hard it was for people to gather money for treatment. The young girl before him, though poorly dressed, had a strong and sincere look. The prescription was written by Dr. Li from the town, meant for a serious bone fracture, which indeed couldn't be delayed. The shopkeeper sighed and nodded. All right, since you're such a devoted daughter, I'll help you this time. Ling Yu's face lit up with joy. She quickly bowed and said, Thank you so much, sir. Don't worry, I'll bring the rest of the money in 3 days. The shopkeeper waved his hand and took the 5 taels of silver. All right, wait here. 10 days of medicine cost 5,000 coins, so you still have 1,000 left. I'll keep it for you and deduct it next time you come. Then he turned to the medicine cabinet, skillfully measured the herbs, wrapped them up, and handed the package to Ling Yu. Thank you, sir. Ling Yu breathed a sigh of relief, carefully placing the medicine into her basket. She quietly held the small jade bottle containing the bone-healing pill in her hand, planning to secretly add it to her father's medicine later. That way, he could take it without worry, and her secret would remain safe. After leaving the pharmacy, Ling Yu didn't go home right away. Instead, she carried her basket toward the largest restaurant in town, the Welcome Inn. She knew that in the cold winter, fresh vegetables were rare, and the restaurant would surely pay a good price. From her hidden space, she took out several pounds of fresh greens, radishes, and a few tomatoes, placing them in her basket until it felt heavy. As soon as she reached the entrance of the Welcome Inn, a waiter stopped her. Hey, little girl, this is the Welcome Inn. It's not a place for you. Move along. Ling Yu calmly replied, Sir, I'm here to sell vegetables. I have fresh greens, radishes, and something you've probably never seen before, tomatoes. They're all freshly picked from the mountains. The waiter paused, looking her up and down. Though her clothes were worn, her eyes were steady and honest. Wait here, he said. I'll tell the manager. Soon, a middle-aged man wearing fine silk clothes and a small beard came out. It was Manager Li, the head of the Welcome Inn. Shopkeeper Li looked up and down at Ling Yu and asked, Young lady, you said you have fresh vegetables? Let me see them. Ling Yu put down her basket and lifted the cover. Inside were bright green greens and red tomatoes that immediately caught shopkeeper Lee's attention. He widened his eyes in surprise, picked up a tomato, and examined it carefully. "What is this?" "It's red like a fruit." "This is called a tomato," Ling Yu explained. "You can eat it raw or cook it. It tastes sweet and a little sour. These greens and radishes are also fresh. In this cold winter, they're quite rare." Shopkeeper Lee pinched a leaf of the greens. It was tender and full of moisture, indeed fresh. He smelled it and found no strange odor. An idea came to him. The New Year was near, and most customers at the restaurant were wealthy. If he could offer a few dishes made with fresh vegetables, they would surely be popular. He asked, "Young lady, how do you plan to sell these vegetables?" Ling Yu thought for a moment and said, "The greens and radishes are 20 coins per pound, and the tomatoes are rarer, so 50 coins per pound. There are 15 pounds of greens and radishes and 5 pounds of tomatoes. That's 15 times 20 plus 5 times 50, which equals 550 coins." Shopkeeper Lee did a quick calculation. The price wasn't cheap, but it was fair for winter. He nodded. "All right, we'll go with your price. But I have one condition. If you get more fresh vegetables later, you must sell them to our restaurant first. I'll pay you 2 coins more per pound." Ling Yu was delighted and quickly agreed. "Of course. Don't worry, Shopkeeper Lee. I'll bring them to you first." Shopkeeper Lee asked his helper to weigh the vegetables, and the numbers matched exactly. He handed Ling Yu 550 coins. "Here's your money.
Count it.
From now on, bring the goods directly to me." Ling Yu counted carefully, then tucked the money safely into her pocket.
Thank you, Shopkeeper Lee.
"I'll remember." Leaving the restaurant, Ling Yu felt very happy. She hadn't expected to earn so much on her first sale. Without stopping, she went to the general store in town to buy supplies her family needed. She bought a new pot, several bowls, plates, and a spoon for 100 coins. Then she bought 10 pounds of flour, 5 pounds of salt, and 2 pounds of brown sugar for 80 coins. Then Ling Yu went to the butcher shop and bought 3 jin of pork belly and 2 jin of ribs for 150 coins. Her father needed nourishment, and the ribs and pork belly would be perfect for making soup and stew. Finally, she bought some needles, cloth, and 2 bundles of firewood for 50 coins. After finishing all her shopping, Ling Yu counted the money. She had spent a total of 380 coins and still had 170 left. She carefully put the remaining money away, lifted the heavy basket full of supplies onto her back, and started home. Though the basket was heavy, she felt secure. These supplies were her way of caring for her family. On the way home, Ling Yu took out some spring water from her secret space and poured it into a bottle. She planned to let her family drink it to improve their health. Halfway home, she saw a small stall selling steamed buns and bought 4 meat buns as snacks for her family. By the time Ling Yu returned to Ling Village, the sky was already getting dark. As she reached the entrance, she saw Ling Xingchen waiting anxiously. When he saw her, he ran over quickly. "Ling Yu, you're finally back."
We were so worried about you.
"Brother, I'm fine. Sorry for making you worry," Ling Yu said with a smile, handing the buns to Ling Erxiao. "I bought these for you all. Try them." Ling Erxiao took the buns and smelled the delicious aroma. He swallowed but didn't eat them. "Let's take them home and share with father, mother, and sister," he said. The siblings walked home together. When they arrived at the old family house, Madame Zhao and Ling Area hurried over. Seeing the pots, bowls, flour, and meat in Ling Yu's basket, Madame Zhao asked in surprise, "Sanya, what's all this? Where did you get these things?" "Mother, I sold the fresh vegetables I found in the mountains to a restaurant in town. I earned some money and bought these," Ling Yu explained with a smile. Then she took out a packet of medicine. "This is for father. I'll go make the medicine now." Father Ling, lying on the bed, trembled with excitement when he heard her words.
Sanya,
You really earned money? And bought all this?" "Father, mother, we've all changed our names now," Ling Yu said with a playful smile. "Don't call me Sanya anymore. My name is Ling Yu. Brother is Ling Xingchen, and sister is Ling Yao. From now on, we'll use our new names and start a new life." She spoke again, carefully explaining about earning money. Yes, father, I sold the fresh vegetables I found in the mountains to a restaurant in town and made some money. I'll keep collecting more so we can live a better life. Ling Lauer was stunned for a moment, then patted his forehead and smiled with guilt. Look at me, I already forgot the new name we just decided on. Good, Ling Yu, my good Yuer. He took the cup of water and drank it all. Soon, the sharp pain in his leg eased, and his stiff body began to feel warm. He said in surprise, "This water tastes amazing. It works even better than the pain medicine the doctor gave me." Ling Yu felt secretly happy, answered softly, and turned to the kitchen to prepare medicine. She carefully washed the herbs she had bought, placed them in a new clay pot, added water, and started a slow fire. When the medicine was almost ready, she quietly took out a bone-healing pill from her secret space, crushed it with a clean stone, and gently mixed it into the pot. She knew her father was weak, and taking the pill this way would make it easier for his body to absorb. When the medicine was done, Ling Yu used a cloth to hold the pot handle, poured out the liquid, filtered the residue, and waited until it was warm. Then she brought it to her father's bedside. "Father, the medicine is ready. Please drink it while it's warm." Ling Lauer struggled to sit up, and Zhao helped him. He took the bowl, smelled the faint herbal scent mixed with a light fragrance, and drank it all. Soon, the pain in his leg eased again, and warmth spread through his body. He said in surprise, "This medicine really works. My leg even feels a little itchy now." Ling Yao looked at the meat in the basket and whispered, "Ling Yu, can we really eat meat tonight?" "Of course, sister," Ling Yu said with a smile. "I bought ribs and pork belly. Tonight, I'll make braised ribs so father can regain his strength." Inside the small thatched house, laughter and joy filled the air because of Ling Yu's good news and the supplies she brought. The cold wind still blew outside, but warmth and hope filled everyone's hearts. Looking at her family's smiling faces, Ling Yu felt even more determined. With the spiritual spring space in her hands, she would lead her family out of poverty, protect them from harm, and give them a peaceful, happy life. After paying 10 days of medical expenses, the family had very little silver left. The money earned from selling vegetables had already been spent on daily necessities. To cover future medical costs and household needs, they had to find another source of income. Anything taken from the secret space needed a believable origin, so she decided to go into the mountains and pretend to find ginseng and lingji mushrooms. The wild animals there could also improve their meals, and the fur and fresh meat could be sold in town for a good price. Having made up her mind, Ling Yu explained her plan to her family. "Father, mother, I'm going into the mountains. The elders in the village said there are many valuable herbs deep inside. I want to see if I can find some to sell at the clinic for silver. I can also hunt a few animals to bring home and make our meals better." Madame Zhao immediately became anxious.
Ling Jue, no.
"The mountains are too dangerous. There are wild beasts and you could get lost. How can a young girl like you go alone?" Ling Xingchen quickly agreed. "She's right, Ling Yu. If anyone should go, it should be me. I'm stronger and can protect myself." Ling Yu smiled and comforted them. "Mother, brother, don't worry. When I fell into the river last time, I actually died, but the king of the underworld said it wasn't my time yet. He said his messengers made a mistake and, to make up for it, he gave me some special skills so I can protect our family." Madame Zhao hugged Ling Yu and cried, "My poor child, it's my fault for not protecting you and letting you suffer." Ling Yu gently patted her mother's back. "Mother, it turned out to be a blessing in disguise. Don't worry, even the king of the underworld doesn't want me, so I'll be fine in the mountains. Even if I don't find ginseng or lingji, catching a few wild chickens or rabbits will still be worth it." Lying on the bed, Father Ling looked at his daughter's determined eyes, feeling both guilty and proud. He knew that ever since she woke up from nearly drowning, she had changed. She was now brave and decisive.
"Let her go," he said softly. "She knows what she's doing.
We shouldn't stop her." Since her husband had spoken, Madame Zhao, though still worried, no longer insisted. She only reminded her again and again, "Be careful, go early, and come back early." If there's any danger, don't try to be brave, just run back. Ling Yu nodded, slung a basket over her back, and quietly took a sharp dagger from her secret space, hiding it at her waist before setting out. As soon as she stepped out of the house, she pretended to tie her shoelaces, slipped behind the woodpile in the yard, and with a thought, entered the spiritual spring space. LV, help me find a ginseng root and a lingji mushroom, Ling Yu said to the guardian spirit. Green fluttered her transparent wings and quickly took out a jade box from a hidden compartment beside the seed pavilion. Master, this is 100-year-old ginseng and Ganoderma grown in the spatial field. Their healing power is 10 times stronger than ordinary ones outside. They're perfect to help your father recover. Ling Yu accepted the jade box and opened it. Inside, the ginseng and Ganoderma looked like tiny human figures, their deep brown bodies giving off a rich herbal scent. She carefully put the box away, filled a kettle with spiritual spring water, and then left the space, walking quickly toward the deep mountains. The mountains near Ling family village were thick with vegetation. Even in the cold winter, many evergreen trees still stood tall, and the snow was dotted with small animal tracks. Ling Yu's past experience as a special agent now came in handy. Her steps were light, her eyes sharp, and she carefully watched her surroundings, alert for both prey and possible danger. After about half an hour, she had already caught 2 wild pheasants and a rabbit, which she gently placed into her basket. Just as she was about to go deeper into the forest to look for more game, she suddenly heard hurried footsteps and the sounds of fighting ahead, mixed with angry shouts. Xiao Ju, you're badly hurt. Let's see where you can run now. If you know what's good for you, surrender quietly. Maybe we'll let you keep your life. Ling Yu's heart tightened. She instinctively hid behind a thick old tree and peeked toward the source of the noise. In a small clearing, more than 10 men dressed in black were attacking a man in a dark robe. The man stood tall and proud. Even though he was kneeling on one knee and clearly injured, his presence was still powerful. His left shoulder was soaked in blood, his face pale as paper, yet his eyes remained sharp. The sword in his hand moved with fierce precision, each strike forcing his attackers back. But his strength was fading fast, his movements slowing, and his breathing growing heavier. Ling Yu's gaze fell on the man's face, and she froze for a moment. He was strikingly handsome, sharp brows, bright eyes, a straight nose, and well-defined lips. Even covered in blood and dirt, his looks were extraordinary. Ling Yu, who had seen all kinds of people in her past life, had to admit, this was the most handsome man she had ever seen. Just as she was momentarily distracted, the man suddenly coughed up a mouthful of blood. His hand could no longer hold the sword, and it fell to the ground with a clang. His vision darkened, his body swayed, and then he collapsed backward, completely unconscious. A killer's eyes lit up with wild excitement. Grinning fiercely, he raised his long blade, ready to strike at the man's unguarded chest. Stop! Ling Yu's heart tightened. She could no longer stay hidden and called out instinctively. She knew her dagger wasn't strong enough to handle so many attackers at once, and it was too late to block the fatal blow. With a quick thought, she took a small pistol from her storage space and aimed it at the killer with the raised blade. Bang! The sharp sound of a gunshot broke the silence of the forest. The killer fell instantly, a red mark appearing on his forehead. His body twitched twice before going still. The sudden noise and the death of their companion froze the other black-clad killers in shock. They turned toward Ling Yu's hiding place, fear and caution in their eyes. Who is this girl? And what strange thing is she holding? The leader shouted angrily, trying to hide his fear. Knowing she had been discovered, Ling Yu stepped out from behind the tree. Her hand holding the gun was steady, and her cold gaze swept over the group. You're attacking someone in broad daylight. You're already in the wrong, and now you want to harm an innocent person? Innocent? The leader sneered, his eyes turning cold. Since you've seen what you shouldn't, you won't leave here alive. Everyone, get her. That strange thing in her hand might not work twice. With that, he charged at her, and the others followed, raising their blades. Ling Yu stayed calm. Using her past life combat skills, She dodged swiftly and fired at the right moments.
Bang! Bang! Bang!
Several shots rang out, and the killers at the front fell one after another, each hit with deadly precision. The remaining ones froze in terror, their legs trembling as they backed away. Lingyu gave them no chance to escape. She stepped forward, aiming carefully, and fired again. Moments later, all the killers lay motionless in the snow. With the danger gone, Lingyu let out a quiet breath. She put the pistol back into her storage space and walked quickly to the fallen bodies. Knowing the bullets were special and could cause trouble if found, she took out a small dagger and carefully removed each bullet, placing them into her space to destroy later. After dealing with the bullets, Lingyu glanced at the killers' belts and packs. She thought that these men must have done many bad things over the years and were likely carrying plenty of silver. Since her family was short on money, she decided not to waste the chance and quickly searched them, taking all the silver and banknotes she found, several hundred taels in total. She also collected some jade pendants and tokens, storing everything in her space. When she finished, she brushed the snow off her hands and walked quickly toward the man in the black robe who had fainted on the ground. Lingyu knelt beside him and checked his breathing. It was weak, but still there. Without hesitation, she took out a flask of spiritual spring water from her basket, gently opened his mouth, and slowly poured the water in. The spring water melted instantly, turning into a warm current that spread through the man's body. His pale face began to regain some color, and his breathing grew steadier. After a moment, he slowly opened his eyes, looking at Lingyu with a mix of caution and confusion.
Who are you?
His voice was hoarse and weak. I'm a villager from Lingjia village nearby. I came into the mountains to gather herbs and happened to see you being attacked, Lingyu explained simply. It's not safe here. I'll move you to a safer place first. The man nodded without asking more. Seeing that he was too injured to walk, Lingyu helped him up and supported him toward a hidden cave not far away. She had discovered this cave on a previous trip into the mountains. The entrance was covered with vines, making it hard to spot, and the inside was dry and clean, perfect for hiding. After settling the man on a pile of dry grass, Lingyu gave him a few more sips of the spring water. He looked much better afterward and could barely sit up. Thank you for saving me, he said gratefully, bowing slightly to her. It was nothing, Lingyu replied, waving her hand. She took out some coarse grain cakes from her basket and placed them in front of him. Eat these to fill your stomach. I'll bring more food tomorrow. The man looked at the food, then at Lingyu, his eyes showing a hint of emotion. Though he was starving, he said, You've already saved my life. How could I take your food as well? What matters most now is that you recover, Lingyu said. You can think about repaying me later. This cave is well hidden. No one will find it for now. My home is nearby. Until you recover, I'll bring you food and water every day. After saying this, Lingyu reminded him a few more times to stay safe, then picked up her basket and left the cave. She needed to get home before dark to give the ginseng and Ganoderma to her mother and explain what had happened. Inside the cave, Xiao Ju watched Lingyu's departing figure with a complicated look. As the war prince of the great Xiao dynasty, he had been ambushed, badly injured, and forced to flee. He thought he would die this time, but unexpectedly, a kind village girl had saved him. Gently touching his wound, he noticed the pain had eased, and his inner strength was slowly returning. What kind of medicine had that girl given him? Its effect was truly remarkable. In the late autumn sunset, Lingyu hurried back to her family's old house on the west side of the village. When she pushed open the straw door, Madame Zhao, Ling Xingchen, and Ling Yao were waiting anxiously in the yard. Even her father, Ling Lauer, forced himself to sit up, worry written all over his face. Since she had gone into the mountains that morning, the whole family had been uneasy, and Madame Zhao had gone to the door many times to look for her. You're finally back. Madame Zhao rushed forward, holding her daughter's hands tightly. After checking her carefully and seeing she was unharmed, tears welled up in her eyes. Did you run into any danger? Let me see if you're hurt. Mother, I'm fine. Lingyu comforted her, taking off her basket and lifting the rough cloth. Inside were 2 wild chickens, a rabbit, and a dark blue cloth bundle. I had a good harvest this time. I even found something valuable that can really help our family. Ling Xingchen's eyes lit up. So much game. This will last us several meals. Ling Yao whispered, the rabbit's fur is so soft. It'll make a warm cushion for winter. Ling Yu took the cloth bundle to her father's bedside. Father, I found ginseng and Ganoderma. They're quite old. Tomorrow I'll go to town to sell them, buy your medicine, and get some things for winter. When Ling Lauer opened the bundle, a strong herbal scent filled the room. Seeing the fine quality of the ginseng and Ganoderma, his eyes grew moist. These are too precious. It must have been dangerous for you to go alone. Don't worry, father. I took a small path and didn't meet anyone, Ling Yu said as she wrapped the herbs again. Tomorrow morning, I'll go to town, sell the herbs, buy medicine, and deliver vegetables to the restaurant. Madame Zhao carefully put the bundle away and said, be careful on the road. Should Xingchen go with you? No need. I know the way well and can move faster alone, Ling Yu replied, asking Xingchen to stay home and take care of the family. Seeing her determined attitude, Zhao did not insist further and repeatedly reminded her to stay safe. That night, Ling Yu used the moonlight to process the prey, Zhao helped add firewood, and Ling Yao assisted with the fur. She quickly removed the feathers and divided the meat, keeping enough for their own family. Then she cooked wild chicken soup and rabbit meat, the rich aroma making Ling Xingchen drool. When ready, she divided the meat into 3 portions to give to the neighbors and specially kept a bowl of the tenderest stewed rabbit for Xiao Ju the next day. During dinner, the family sat together. Ling Lao drank chicken soup mixed with spring water, which seemed to help his leg problem. Seeing her siblings eat happily, Ling Yu felt very happy. After dinner, Ling Yu carefully processed the rabbit skin and hung it in a ventilated place to dry. She said, Mother, once the rabbit skin is dry, find Uncle Huzi to tan it. You're good at this, and you can make gloves yourself. You and sister won't have cold hands working in winter. We've also been helped a lot by Aunt Li and others when we moved, so we should thank them too. Zhao nodded repeatedly. That's a good idea. Aunt Wang, Aunt Li, and the village chief all helped a lot. Sending some prepared meat as a gift is just right, a token of our thanks. Ling Yu and her older siblings each carried a bowl of rabbit meat and went to Aunt Wang's house. Ling Yu knocked on the door, and Aunt Wang quickly opened it. Seeing the warm meat, she hurriedly waved her hands. This won't do. Ling Yu smiled and handed her the bowl. Aunt Wang, please accept it. We really relied on you and Uncle Huzi when we moved. By the way, I have something to tell you. We all changed our names. I'm no longer called Ling Sanya. My parents renamed me Ling Yu. My brother is now Ling Xingchen, and my sister is Ling Yao. Just call us by our new names from now on. Aunt Wang was momentarily stunned, then broke into a happy smile. Oh, all 3 names are so nice. Both elegant and pretty. From now on, I'll call you by your new names. She took the meat, then called out Uncle Huzi. When he heard about tanning rabbit skins, he immediately pounded his chest and promised, no problem.
Count on me.
Leaving Aunt Wang's house, the 3 went to Aunt Li's house. Aunt Li greeted them warmly at the door. When she took the meat, her eyes turned slightly red. Your family just settled down and you're still thinking of Annie. Ling Yu smiled and said, Auntie Li, we're grateful for your help before. I want to tell you, we all changed our names. I'm Ling Yu now, my brother is Ling Xingchen, and my sister is Ling Yao. We don't use our old names anymore.
A un minut de repetir-li.
Good names. All 3 children are sensible. Your new names suit you well. Ling Xingchen, Ling Yao, and Ling Yu. From now on, your auntie will call you by these names. Finally, they went to the village chief's house. The village chief was chopping firewood in the yard. When he saw the warm rabbit meat, he quickly stopped his work. Kids, why are you bringing me something again? Ling Yu handed him a bowl. Village chief, this is a small gift from us. We really appreciate your fairness earlier. Also, I want to tell you that I and my older siblings have changed our names. I am now Ling Yu. My brother is Ling Xingchen and my sister is Ling Yao. We are no longer called Ling Sanya, Ling Shirtu, or Ling Xiaohua. The village chief held the hot meat and nodded happily. Good names. Well changed. Ling Xingqian, Ling Yao, Ling Yu. All good children. As they left with the meat, Ling Yu clearly heard the voice of the village chief's wife coming from his house. As soon as Ling Yu and the others left, the village chief's wife brought the rabbit meat into the house and sighed to the village chief. Husband, look at Ling Sanya. Oh no, Ling Yu. This girl is really getting more capable. Not only can she hunt in the mountains, but she also knows how to be grateful. Even at such a young age, she's so sensible. When the old man Ling's family drove them out, they were really blind. I believe that soon, Ling Yu will make their life prosperous, and the old man Ling will regret his decision. The village chief put down his axe and nodded in agreement. You're right. Ling Yu is kind-hearted and responsible. She can handle big things. The old man Ling's family is short-sighted. They will regret their decision sooner or later. The next morning, just as dawn broke, Ling Yu packed some coarse cloth in a bag and carried a basket to go to the town. After about an hour, she arrived at Rinshin Hall. Shopkeeper Chen took the coarse cloth bag, opened it, and saw ginseng and Lingji inside. He immediately put on his reading glasses and examined them carefully. His fingers brushed over the roots of the ginseng and the cap of the Lingji. After a moment, he exclaimed, "Wow! These are century-old ginseng and Lingji. They look excellent. The roots are complete, and the caps are full. The medicinal effects must be strong. These are rare treasures." Ling Yu was very happy. She didn't expect these two herbs to be 100 years old. Shopkeeper Chen looked at Ling Yu and offered a fair price. "Young girl, for such century-old herbs, I'll give you 300 taels of silver." "How about that?" Ling Yu agreed quickly. "All right, Shopkeeper Chen, I accept your price." She carefully took the heavy silver and stored it safely. Then, Ling Yu followed the prescription to prepare medicine for 20 days and paid 1,500 won. Leaving Rinshin Hall, she casually threw the silver into her space. Then like Green, he picked fresh vegetables from the space and put them into her basket. She took the vegetables to the guest reception building, where Manager Li happily accepted them, giving her 300 coins plus an extra 10 as a reward, and told her to prioritize sending vegetables in the future. After selling the vegetables, Ling Yu bought 10 jin of flour, 2 jin of red sugar, 3 jin of pork belly, and a few hot meat buns. After filling her basket, she headed back to the village. When she returned, Ling Yu did not go home first, but went to the mountains. She took out the braised rabbit meat she prepared last night and the freshly bought buns from her space, thinking about whether Xiao Ju was still in the cave. Ling Yu carried the buns and braised rabbit meat to the cave entrance and called softly, "Xiao Ju." Inside the cave, Xiao Ju heard the familiar voice, slowly opened his eyes, and a warm feeling appeared in his eyes. Ling Yu stepped inside and handed him the food. "This is the braised rabbit from last night, and the hot buns I just bought. Eat them while they're warm." Xiao Ju took the food, smelling the delicious aroma, and looked at Ling Yu's caring eyes, feeling even more grateful. "Thank you." Ling Yu smiled and asked, "No need to thank me. How are your injuries?" She checked Xiao Ju's injuries briefly, saw that he was recovering well, and said, "I'll go down the mountain and return home first. I'll come to see you tomorrow." After coming down from the mountain, Ling Yu returned home and handed the 300 taels of silver to Zhao. Zhao looked at the shining silver and tears of excitement fell. Good days are really coming. Ling Yu also took out what she bought and said she would make braised pork. Her younger siblings cheered happily. As dusk fell, rich smells of meat wafted from the small courtyard of the Ling family ancestral house. Zhao was carefully tending the stove, gently turning the braised pork in the pot. The amber-colored sauce coated the tender and fatty meat chunks, sizzling loudly, making Ling Yao swallow hard. Ling Xingqian helped set the bowls and chopsticks, while Old Second leaned against the Kong, nostrils filled with a familiar aroma of meat, eyes full of warmth. "All done. Eat while it's hot." Zhao carried the heavy plate of braised pork to the table, then placed the white steamed buns Ling Yu bought from the county. "This is all thanks to you, so our whole family can enjoy such a good meal." Ling Yu smiled and handed a bun to Old Second. "Dad, Eat more to help your recovery. Ling Xingchen also helped his sister by scooping some lean meat onto her plate. You've worked hard in the mountains too. Eat more. The family sat around the table, chatting and laughing, easing most of their worries from the past days. The next morning, just as dawn was breaking, Ling Yu got out of bed. She carefully packed the fresh wild vegetables she had collected the day before into a basket. This was the agreement she had with the county restaurant to deliver fresh ingredients every day. "Mom, I'm going to the county to deliver the vegetables. I'll be back at noon," she said to Zhao. After slinging the basket on her back, she set off happily. Not long after Ling Yu left, Granny Wang, along with her third son Ling San and his wife Wang Yuping, hurried angrily toward the ancestral home of the Ling family. Yesterday, she had been embarrassed by Ling Yu and felt angrier the more she thought about it. She also heard from neighbors that Ling Yu had bought a lot of good things from the county: white flour, red sugar, and a big piece of pork, enough for every meal to include meat. This news stabbed Granny Wang like a thorn in her heart, making her feel unfair. Why should the second branch, who was forced to leave the ancestral home, live a good life? Those things should belong to her Ling family. With a loud bang, Granny Wang kicked the old, broken gate of the Ling house. The door made a dull sound, startling the chickens in the corner of the yard into a flurry of flapping wings.
Ling Er. Zhao.
"Come out here." Granny Wang stood with her hands on her hips, her sharp voice especially harsh in the early morning village. Zhao, who was tidying up the house, was startled and quickly went outside to check. Ling Xingchen grabbed a nearby firewood knife, standing alertly beside his mother. When Ling Er, lying on the bed, heard Granny Wang's voice, his face darkened instantly. As soon as the gate opened, the scene before Zhao's eyes made her pupils shrink and her heart tighten. Granny Wang stood in the middle of the yard with her hands on her hips, commanding her third daughter-in-law Wang Yuping and Ling San to move things recklessly into the bamboo baskets outside the door. Leftover white flour, red sugar, and fabric for making new clothes for the family, all were being rummaged through. Wang Yuping pushed Zhao to the ground, her skirt stained with dirt, and a trace of dried blood at the corner of her mouth. She clung tightly to a bundle of fabric, refusing to let go, crying heartbreakingly, "This is for Heir's recovery. You risked her life to go into the mountains and worked hard every day delivering vegetables. You can't take these." Ling Xingchen was pressed against the wall by two strong men, his arms twisted painfully red, but he still shouted angrily, "You bandits! My sister will not forgive you when she returns." Ling Yao, trembling with fear, shrank by the stove, tears streaming down her face like broken beads, but she dared not make a sound. Hearing the commotion, Ling Er, lying on the bed, struggled to sit up but groaned in pain from his leg injury, his face pale as paper. "Old Lady Wang, what are you doing?" Ling Yu's voice suddenly came from the alley entrance, cold as the winter north wind. She had just finished delivering vegetables and was rushing back when she heard the noise at home. She quickly hurried over. She set her basket on the ground with a dull thud, her eyes like blades sweeping over everyone present. Old Lady Wang turned to see Ling Yu. Instead of showing fear, she smiled greedily. "Oh, little brat, you're just in time. Your father is part of my Ling family, and your second branch also belongs to us. I heard you made a lot of money selling ginseng and bought many good things. You should show some respect to your grandmother, right?" "Respect," Ling Yu sneered. She quickly went to Zhao's side, helped her up, gently brushed off the dust, then turned to look at Ling Xingchen, who was pressed down. Her eyes sharpened. "My father is bedridden with a broken leg. Our family was driven out of the ancestral house, and we can't even get a proper meal. When that happened, did you ever think about family ties? Now that we have a little something, you rush in like hungry wolves to snatch it. Is this what you call being elders?" Many villagers had gathered around to watch. Hearing Ling Yu's words, they started talking among themselves. Seeing this, Ling Yu raised her voice, filled with a hint of grievance and anger. "Everyone, judge for yourselves. My father broke his leg trying to earn food for the family. He lies in bed, unable to move. We were expelled from our home, living in a leaky, broken house, eating thin rice soup that you can see through. I am just a 10-year-old girl, risking my life to go deep into the mountains to find medicine for my father. When I finally found some ginseng and sold it to buy things to help my family, old lady Wang and her people came to steal. Is there any justice in this world? Her eyes reddened slightly, not pretending, but because she felt heartbroken for her family and the dangers she faced in the mountains. The villagers, already sympathetic to Lingyu's family, looked at old lady Wang and her group with disdain and dissatisfaction. Stop pretending to be pitiful here. Old lady Wang's face turned pale and flushed as she retorted stubbornly, "Your father is mine. What's wrong with me taking a little from him? It's only right. Besides, who knows where you got that ginseng? Maybe you stole it from the Ling family." Steal? Lingyu sneered angrily. If I had something to steal, would I need to risk my life going deep into the mountains? Aunt Wang, speak honestly. Over the years, my father worked hard for you, earning all the money, but did you ever give him a full meal or a new piece of clothing? And now you still have the nerve to say he is your son? Aunt Wang was speechless, choking on her words. In her panic, she blurted out he was just... But she was cut off by old man Ling's sharp glare, forcing her to swallow the rest of her sentence. Lingyu quickly caught this and became suspicious. What did Aunt Wang mean? Could it be that her father was not her biological father? At that moment, a sharp voice came from the crowd. Humph, you talk as if you're singing. Just picking ginseng can earn 300 taels of silver? I think you're probably involved in something secretive, or else where did all that money come from? The speaker was the wife of the village butcher, who often liked to stir trouble. Seeing Lingyu's family suddenly get rich, she was jealous. Another neighbor, old man Li, chimed in. Exactly. The mountains are so dangerous. How could it be easy to find ginseng? I think she's just lucky, taking advantage and pretending to be innocent. You're all talking nonsense. Ling Xingqian trembled with anger, wanting to rush forward to argue, but Lingyu stopped him. Just then, the village chief hurried over, his face dark. He scolded sharply. Village butcher's wife, old man Li. Shut up. Don't you know how dangerous the mountains are? A few years ago, Zhao Dezhu went hunting and was killed by a wolf pack. When his body was found, it was unrecognizable. Lingyu is just a young girl. If she wasn't desperate and had no choice, would she risk such danger? Finding ginseng is her good fortune, and the money she earned is clean. Who are you to criticize her? The village chief's words sounded like thunder, making the butcher's wife and old man Li blush with shame, and they dared not speak further. The other villagers nodded in agreement, recalling Zhao Dezhu's tragic end, and looked at Lingyu with more sympathy. The village chief then turned to Aunt Wang, his tone stern. Mrs. Wang, I warned you before. The family separation papers are clear. Your second family has nothing to do with you. Why did you bring people to seize things? If you cause more trouble, I will gather the elders and deal with you according to our rules. Seeing the village chief's serious anger and noticing that the villagers were all on Lingyu's side, Aunt Wang felt a bit scared. But she was still unwilling to leave empty-handed. She glared and sat down on the ground, pounding her thigh and crying loudly. My life is so bitter. I raised a son who is ungrateful and selfish. Now he won't even give me a small gift to show respect. What's the point of me living anymore? Lingyu looked at the crying and rolling Wang Pozi with a cold smile. She knew Wang Pozi was determined to take advantage of them. If she fought her directly, she had ways to deal with her, but it might make her seem unfilial and damage her reputation in the village. Plus, her father still needed to rest his leg and couldn't be upset again. After thinking for a moment, Lingyu said in a firm voice, Wang Pozi, since you are technically my father's stepmother, I won't argue with you. You can take 2 pounds of flour and 1 pound of red sugar as my gift of respect. But I warn you, this is the last time. If you dare to bother us again, I won't hold back. Wang Pozi saw Lingyu relaxed and immediately felt happy. She quickly got up from the ground and ordered Wang Yuping, hurry, pack 2 pounds of flour and 1 pound of red sugar. Wang Yuping didn't dare delay. She found a cloth bag, packed the items, and handed it to Wang Pozi. Wang Pozi took the bag, glared at Lingyu fiercely, and muttered, You're smart. Then she hurriedly left with her people, After the crowd dispersed, Ling Yu helped Zhao to sit on the Kong and gently massaged Ling Xingchen's red arm. Finally, she went to Old Ling's bed and softly asked, "Dad, are you okay?" Old Ling shook his head, looking at Ling Yu with complicated eyes, and choked. I'm sorry. It's Dad's fault for not protecting you. Dad, it's not your fault. Ling Yu comforted him, but she kept thinking about what Wang Posey hadn't finished saying. She knew her father's background must hide a secret, and that secret might be the key for their family to break free from the Ling family's control. Zhao wiped her tears and looked at the things Ling Yu bought, feeling distressed. "It's all my fault. I couldn't keep the things safe." "Mom, it's okay," Ling Yu smiled. "As long as our family is safe and sound. If these things are gone, I can go into the mountains to find herbs and pick vegetables to sell. I'll earn the money back quickly." She paused and added, "In the future, we should raise 2 dogs to guard the house, so Wang Posey won't try to take advantage of us again." Ling Xingchen clenched his fists and said firmly, "Teach me martial arts so I can protect Dad, Mom, and Yaoer too. I won't let anyone bully us again." Ling Yu said, "All right, from now on, every day at the hour of Qin, you must wake up and exercise with me." The night was as dark as ink, with faint stars hidden behind thick clouds. The village of Ling was silent, only occasional dog barks breaking the quiet, then returning to calm. Inside the thatched cottage of the Ling family ancestral home, the lights had already gone out. Ling Xingchen and Ling Yao were sleeping soundly. Mrs. Zhao sat by second Old Ling's bed, leaning on the bed's edge, drowsy. Ling Yu lay on her bed, her eyes bright and alert. The words from the old woman Wang that day, "He was already," felt like a tiny needle stabbing her heart. Her father's background must have a problem. Ling Yu turned over, her fingers instinctively touching the dagger hidden at her waist. The cold attitude of Wang and Old Ling towards her father was not just simple favoritism. If her father was not their biological son, everything would make sense. She had to find out the truth. This was not only about her father's past, but could also be the key for their family to break free from Ling's control. Carefully, she got up quietly. Using the faint moonlight outside the window, she checked the doors and windows again. She adjusted her parents' bedding, then quietly pushed the door open. The cold wind hit her face, making her tighten her rough cloth clothes. She tiptoed toward Old Ling's house at the east end of the village. Old Ling's house, made of blue bricks, looked especially noticeable in the night, standing out against the surrounding earthen houses. The lights inside were already out. Probably the old couple had gone to sleep. Ling Yu circled to a quiet spot by the wall, confirmed no one was around, then focused her mind and entered the spirit spring space. The space inside was warm like spring. Green He, hearing the noise, flapped her wings and flew over. "Master, what are you doing so late? I want to listen to the conversation inside the next room." "Stay here and don't make a sound," Ling Yu whispered. The magic of this space was that as long as she mentally locked onto a certain area, she could clearly hear outside sounds while remaining completely invisible and undetectable. Green He nodded obediently and shrank into the corner of the wooden house. Ling Yu concentrated her mind, locking the perception range of the space onto Old Ling's and his wife's bedroom. She pressed her ear against the barrier connecting the space to the outside and listened carefully. Inside, she heard restless shifting sounds, followed by Wang's impatient complaints. "That little brat Ling Yu is to blame. Today she didn't steal much and was criticized by the village chief and villagers. Such bad luck." Old Ling grunted. "Enough, stop complaining. If it weren't for your greed and your insistence on taking what isn't yours, there wouldn't be so many problems. That girl is getting more powerful now. Let's not provoke her for the time being." "Not provoke her? And just let them have the 300 taels of silver?" Granny Wang raised her voice but quickly lowered it. "If it weren't for us back then. Humph, that wicked child Ling Chu. We've raised him for so many years, and he hasn't brought us any benefit. Now he's daring to have his daughter oppose us." The word, wicked child, made Ling Yu feel uneasy. There must be a problem. Old Mr. Ling sighed. "What's the use of talking about this? If we hadn't been greedy back then, none of this would have happened. I remember over 20 years ago when we were working in the county town. One day, We passed by West Street and saw a fancy carriage parked at the alley entrance, with no servants around. I noticed the carriage window wasn't closed tightly, so I sneaked closer and saw a basket inside. I thought it might contain something valuable, so I quickly took it and ran away. Granny Wong added, "Exactly. I thought it was gold and jewels, but when I opened it, I found a crying baby. I was about to throw him away. You said that the child was wearing a gold lock and gold rings, so he must be from a wealthy family. Those things could sell for a good price." Old Mr. Ling continued, "That's right." His voice carried a hint of memory. The baby was wrapped in fine silk bedding, with pure gold rings on his wrists and calves, and a gold lock hanging on his chest with a character, Chu, engraved on it. I secretly took the gold rings to the pawn shop and exchanged them for a lot of silver. When I came back, I lied and said I earned the money working, and I built this brick house and sent the eldest to school. If I were you, I would have pawned that gold lock too. Keeping it now is just trouble, Granny Wong muttered. How would you know? Old Mr. Ling scolded. That gold lock is the only proof of that wicked child's background. I kept it because I was afraid that someday a wealthy family might come looking for him, and it would serve as evidence. But after so many years, no one has come. Probably that family has long forgotten about the child, or something happened. Later, you had a miscarriage, right? When you returned to the village, you said Ling Chu was born by you and no one doubted it. If it weren't for trying to hide the truth, I wouldn't have accepted that wicked child as my son, Granny Wong said bitterly. Over the years, I've mistreated him, made him work like a beast, just because I didn't like him. If he hadn't still had some strength to work and could serve the eldest and third families as a laborer, I would have kicked him out long ago. Enough, enough. Stop talking and go to sleep. Old Man Ling yawned and said, I'll think of a plan tomorrow. See if I can squeeze some more silver from the second house. The gold lock and the quilt are hidden in the wooden box under the bed. Don't let outsiders find them. After that, there was no more sound in the room, only the even breathing of the two, clearly asleep. Ling Yu clenched her fists tightly in the space, her heart burning with anger. It turns out her father's background was so complicated. He wasn't the biological son of Old Man Ling and his wife, but a child stolen from a wealthy family long ago. They not only stole her father but also sold his gold jewelry, using the money to build a house and send other sons to school, while treating her father like a beast, tormenting him in every way. She suppressed her anger and thought, then quietly left the space. She silently landed at the foot of Old Man Ling's courtyard wall. Taking advantage of the night, like a clever cat, she climbed over the wall into the yard. Carefully, she approached the bedroom window, confirmed that the old couple was sleeping deeply, then moved to the main hall and found the door to the backyard. Ling Yu remembered Old Man Ling saying the gold lock and quilt were hidden in the wooden box under the bed. Holding her breath, she gently pushed open the bedroom door. A faint musty smell filled the room, and moonlight shone through the crack in the window, barely revealing the bed's position. She tiptoed to the bed and saw a wooden box under it. The box was unlocked. Ling Yu carefully pulled it out and opened it. Inside was an old silk quilt, still delicate despite many years, embroidered with intricate cloud patterns. Next to the quilt was a small gold lock, with the character, Chu, clearly visible, which was the origin of her father's name, Ling Chu. Ling Yu carefully stored the quilt and the gold lock at her space, then put the box back in place. She gently dusted it off to make sure no traces were left. After finishing, she quietly left the bedroom, closed the door, and climbed over the wall to leave Old Man Ling's house. When she returned to her ancestral home, it was still before dawn. Ling Yu pushed open the door and saw Zhao had already woken up, sitting worriedly by the bed, watching her. Where did you go? You scared Mom to death. Zhao quickly got up, took Ling Yu's hand, and touched her face. It's so cold. You must be freezing. Mom, I'm fine. Ling Yu smiled to reassure her. I have something important to tell you and Dad. Old Secondling was also awakened. He leaned against the bed and looked at Ling Yu with confusion. What happened? Ling Yu walked to the edge of the bed, gesturing for Mrs. Zhao to close the door. Then she mentally summoned a silk quilt and a gold lock from her space, placing them on the bed. Father, mother, look at these two things. Old Second Ling saw the gold lock and quilt. His eyes widened in surprise. He reached out to pick up the gold lock, touching the character, Chu, engraved on it. His brow furrowed.
This
thing looks so familiar. I think I've seen it somewhere before. Father, this is your belonging. Lingyu took a deep breath and told old Second Ling and Mrs. Zhao everything she overheard last night. Father, you are not the biological son of old Ling and Granny Wang. You were stolen from a wealthy family in the county over 20 years ago. The gold lock was with you when you were born. The character Chu is your real name. The quilt was wrapped around you back then. They sold the gold ring from your body for silver, built a brick house, and sent the eldest son to school. They even used a stillborn baby to pretend you were her child. What? Old Second Ling was struck like lightning. The gold lock in his hand clattered onto the bed. His eyes widened in disbelief. Are you serious? I'm not their biological son. Mrs. Zhao was also stunned. She covered her mouth, tears suddenly welling up.
No wonder.
No wonder they are so harsh to the head of the family. They've been treating him like a beast all these years. It turns out he's not even their real son. Old Second Ling trembled all over, tears rolling down his cheeks. He had lived most of his life believing he was the biological son of old Ling and Granny Wang. Although they favored him and treated him poorly, he had always been filial and endured silently. But now, Lingyu told him he was not their real son but stolen. His years of suffering and patience suddenly turned into deep sadness. So they never loved me because I wasn't their real child. Old Second Ling choked. I always thought, how could parents be so cruel to their own children? Father, don't be sad. Lingyu held his hand gently and comforted him softly. It's not your fault. They stole you and mistreated you. That's their wrongdoing. Now that we know the truth, we no longer have to be controlled by them. The gold lock and quilt are proof of your identity. Maybe someday you'll find your real family. Mrs. Zhao also wiped her tears and held old Second Ling's other hand. Head of the family, don't be sad. No matter whose child you are my husband and the father of Xing, Yao, and you. Our family together is more important than anything else. From now on, we won't have to worry about old man Ling and Granny Wang's attitudes. We will live our own good life. Old Second Ling looked at his wife and children, then at the gold lock and quilt on the bed. His sadness was slowly replaced by warmth. He nodded and choked up, saying, Okay. We will live well as a family and stay away from them forever. You said, Dad, Mom, officially they are still my grandparents. But I've been thinking of a way to let everyone know you are not old man Ling's biological children so we can cut ties with them completely. Xingchen said, You don't worry. Let's not cause trouble with them now. When Dad's leg heals, we'll settle everything then. At dawn, just after the first rooster crow, you woke Xingchen. The small courtyard still had a thin layer of frost. You stood still on the frost, then looked seriously at her confused brother and said, Starting today, you must practice horse stance exactly at the hour of Chen every day. This is basic training. It will build your strength and stability, so you can protect Dad, Mom, and sister later. Xingchen didn't know exactly what horse stance was for, but remembering how impressive his sister had been before, he straightened up and said, Okay, I'll listen to you. He then followed Yu's demonstration, feet shoulder-width apart, knees bent, back straight. But after a short while, his legs started trembling and sweat appeared on his forehead. Stay steady, don't let your knees go past your toes, and lower your center of gravity, Yu said, walking over and gently patting his back. It's tough at first, but if you can hold out through a cup of tea, you pass. Zhao came out with a basin of water, saw her son sweating heavily, and wanted to go over, but was stopped by Yu's gaze. Mom, my brother is practicing this to avoid being bullied in the future. He needs to stick with it, Zhao sighed, holding back her worries, and turned to the kitchen. Yao stood at the door, shyly watching, clutching her clothes, with a look of envy in her eyes. After finishing the horse stance, Yu carried a prepared basket, filled with common wild vegetables she dug from the back mountain. She showed it to her parents. "Mom, I'm going to town to deliver these vegetables, and I'll also pick up embroidery work for you and sister at the embroidery shop." She smiled and reminded them, "You and sister stay at home and get ready. I'll start working when I return." Zhao's eyes lit up at her words. She has been living with old Second Ling since she can remember, with no memory of the past. The only skill that seems to be ingrained in her bones is embroidery. Her stitches are fine, and her patterns are beautiful. Before the family split, life was hard. She would do simple embroidery work with Yaoer, hoping to help with household expenses. However, every finished piece was taken by Granny Wang under the excuse of saving it for later, and she was never paid. Now Lingyu says she can take on embroidery jobs herself, no longer needing Granny Wang's help. She quickly agrees. "Yes, yes. Be careful on the way. Take more work, and I will do some with Yaoer to earn some money for the family." Lingyu responds and leaves. She walks to a quiet spot at the village entrance, and with a thought, the wild vegetables in her basket instantly transform into fresh vegetables, radishes, and tomatoes from her space. She walks briskly over the snowy 10-mile road and reaches the town in about an hour. First, she heads straight to the welcome guest tower, where Manager Li has been waiting at the door. Seeing the vegetables on her back, he smiles and greets her. "Lingyu, you're here. The guests have been looking forward to your fresh vegetables these days." After weighing and settling the bill, Lingyu takes 350 coins and then heads to the splendid embroidery workshop in town. The shopkeeper is a woman in her 50s named Zhou. When she sees Lingyu come in, she raises an eyebrow and asks, "Little girl, are you here to pick up embroidery work?" "Manager Zhou, my mother and sister can do embroidery. We want to take some handkerchief projects," Lingyu politely replies. Zhou looks her over from head to toe, then takes out a stack of plain handkerchiefs and several bundles of colorful silk threads from behind the counter. She says handkerchief embroidery is simple. Each finished one pays 5 coins. But here, we require a deposit first. 50 handkerchiefs cost 50 coins as a deposit. When you return the finished handkerchiefs, the deposit will be refunded in full. Without hesitation, Lingyu takes the remaining small silver and copper coins from her pocket, counts out 50 coins, and hands them over. Zhou checks the money carefully before handing her the handkerchiefs and silk threads. "Take these, and remember to finish and return them quickly." Lingyu carefully stores the handkerchiefs and silk in her basket, asks about embroidery tips, and, after confirming everything, thanks Zhou and leaves. When she gets home, Zhao and Ling Yao are already waiting. Lingyu hands over the handkerchiefs and silk. Zhao picks up one, touches the fabric with her fingertips, and a look of confusion flashes in her eyes. Then she focuses, picks up a needle and thread to try, and her stitches immediately become fine and neat. Yao leans in beside her, watching carefully and learning earnestly, her eyes full of concentration. "Mother, your embroidery looks so beautiful." Lingyu smiled and praised, causing Zhao to show a shy smile. "I just feel like I can do it, but I can't quite remember how I learned it." Lingyu's heart moved slightly. Behind Zhao's amnesia, there must be a complicated past, but now is not the time to investigate. After lunch, Lingyu pretended to go to the back mountain to gather firewood. She quietly took out cooked rice and stewed meat from her space, packed them into a food box, and headed into the deep mountains. When she arrived at the old cave, Xiaoju was leaning against the stone wall, resting with his eyes closed. Hearing the noise, he opened his eyes. His face had regained its healthy color, and his shoulder wound was almost healed. "Are you feeling better?" Lingyu handed him the food box. Xiaoju took it, opened it, and was greeted by a strong aroma. He looked up at Lingyu with gratitude. "Thank you for taking care of me these days." "My injury has healed," Lingyu nodded. "That's good. I will take my leave today." After finishing the food, Xiaoju stood up straight like a pine tree. "I will remember your kindness. If you need anything in the future, you can come to the capital with this token." He took out a dark-colored jade pendant from his pocket, engraved with the character, Xiao. Lingyu took the pendant without asking much and said, "Take care on your way." Xiaoju looked at her deeply, then turned and strode out of the cave, quickly disappearing into the forest. Lingyu put away the jade pendant, understanding that this mysterious man was not an ordinary person. Their encounter ended here. Her top priority now was to protect her family. After seeing Xiaoju off and rushing home, Zhao was sitting with Ling Yao at the Kong, sorting embroidery threads, preparing to sew a handkerchief. Suddenly, a clear child's voice came from outside the courtyard. "Sister Ling Yao, Sister Ling Yao." Ling Yao looked up and got up to open the courtyard door. It was the little dog Gooden from Aunt Li's family, holding a colorful piece of candy. "Gooden, do you need something?" Gooden handed the candy to Ling Yao, speaking in a childish voice. "Yao Jia, an old lady at the village entrance, is looking for you. She said she has something delicious for you and asked me to call you." Zhao also came out, frowning. "Which old lady is it?" Gooden shook his head and kept urging. "Hurry up, sister. If you're late, the good food will be gone." Ling Yao hesitated, glanced back at Zhao. Zhao thought everyone in the village was familiar, so nothing bad could happen. Seeing that the candy in Gooden's hand was rare, she advised, "Go quickly and come back soon. Don't go too far." Ling Yao nodded and followed Gooden toward the village entrance.
She didn't see it.
When Dog Egg turned around, his peripheral vision caught sight of Granny Wong near the wall corner. Behind Granny Wong, there stood a stern-faced Uncle Ling Russian. When they reached the old locust tree at the village entrance, Ling Russian stepped out from behind the tree, holding a bowl of sweet water, and smiled at Ling Yao, saying, "Yaoer, this was prepared by your grandma. Drink it quickly." Ling Yao looked at the unfamiliar uncle and shrank back, saying, "I'm not thirsty." Ling Russian's eyes darkened. Taking advantage of Ling Yao's distraction, he suddenly covered her face with a handkerchief soaked in sleeping medicine. Soon, Ling Yao felt dizzy and blacked out. Granny Wong, hiding nearby, hurried out and told Ling Russian, "Quick, carry her onto the car at Mr. Wong's house. Don't let anyone see." Ling Russian lifted Ling Yao and hurried toward the hidden carriage at the village entrance. Granny Wong then gave Dog Egg a handful of candies and whispered, "Don't tell anyone we saw this." After completing everything, they quickly got into the carriage and left in a cloud of dust. As night fell, Ling Yao remained missing. Zhao was anxiously pacing in the yard, muttering, "Why isn't she back yet? Could something have happened?" Ling Xingchen also frowned tightly, clenched his fists, and said, "Mom, I'll go to the village entrance and town to find my sister." Just as he turned to leave, hurried footsteps suddenly sounded outside the yard. Aunt Li from the village rushed in, looking pale. It turned out that in the evening, Aunt Li called her Dog Egg home for dinner. Seeing the child with a pocket full of colorful candies, he was happily eating with a face covered in sweets. "Curious?" she asked, and Dog Egg stammered that Granny Wong asked him to call Ling Yao to the village entrance. Later, she gave him candies and said she saw Granny Wong and Ling Russian cover Ling Yao with a handkerchief, then carry her onto a carriage. Hearing this, Aunt Li was so frightened she almost fainted. She hurried to Ling Yu's house and exclaimed, "Something's wrong. Zhao. Yaoer might have been harmed by Granny Wong and Ling Russian." Dog Egg said they knocked her out and took her away. "What?" Zhao nearly fainted, her vision darkening. Ling Xingchen caught her and shouted angrily, "That wicked old woman. I will go find her and settle the score." Ling Yu's expression turned icy, her fists clenched tightly, nails digging into her palms. She suppressed her anger and told Ling Xingchen, "Brother, you stay home and take care of Mom. I will go save sister." Night fell and the cold wind howled. Under the cover of darkness, Ling Yu quietly arrived at her uncle's house in the town. Uncle Ling Russian and Ma Xiaolan are inside the house discussing something. Their daughter, Ling Ruyu, is already asleep. Ling Yu holds her breath, takes out a small needle dipped in sleeping potion from her space, gently opens the window of Ling Ruyu's room, and precisely inserts the needle into her sleeping point. Ling Ryu doesn't even grunt and falls into a deeper sleep. Ling Yu slips through the window, lifts Ling Ryu, and disappears into the night like a ghost. Relying on her past experience as a secret agent, she quickly finds Wang Yulao's residence. The house isn't heavily guarded. Ling Yu avoids patrolling guards, quietly sneaks into the backyard, and finds the room where Ling Yao is held. Ling Yao is tied to a chair, with a cloth stuffed in her mouth. When she sees Ling Yu, her eyes are full of fear and sadness, and tears fall instantly. Ling Yu quickly walks over, unties Ling Yao, and pulls out the cloth from her mouth. "Sister, don't be afraid. I'm here to save you." Ling Yao chokes out, "You. I'm so scared. It's okay now. I'll take you home." Ling Yu comforts her, then places the unconscious Ling Ryu on a chair, ties her up, stuffs her mouth, and disguises herself as Ling Yao. After finishing everything, Ling Yu takes Ling Yao and quietly leaves Wang Yulao's house under the cover of night, walking quickly toward the village. When they arrive home, Zhao and Ling Xingchen are still anxiously waiting. Seeing Ling Yao safe, Zhao hugs her tightly, crying uncontrollably. "Yao, you're finally back." Mother was so scared. Ling Yao leans into Zhao's arms and also starts crying. "Mother, it was Grandma who tricked me into being sold to Wang Yulao. If you hadn't saved me, I might never see you again." Ling Yu watches the mother and daughter crying together, her eyes still cold. She knows she will settle the score with Granny Wang and her family someday. Meanwhile, at Wang Yulao's house, no one has noticed that the people in the room have been replaced. Uncle Ling Russian and Ma Xiulan are still dreaming of climbing the social ladder by flattering Wang Yulao, unaware that a big disaster is about to fall on their precious daughter. In the backyard of Wang Yulao's house, the candlelight flickers over the messy scene. Ling Ryu wakes up from her daze, feeling sore all over as if her body has been disassembled and reassembled. Her clothes are in disarray, scattered by the bed. The luxurious but unfamiliar surroundings remind her of last night's nightmare, and tears burst out uncontrollably. "Why are you crying?" Wang Yulao, still drunk and not fully awake, is annoyed by the crying and scolds harshly. "Since you've become my person, you must listen well from now on. You'll benefit from it. I'm not Ling Yao. I am Ling Ryu's daughter, Ling Ryu." Ling Ryu shouted loudly in her defense, her voice hoarse. "You have the wrong person. Please let me go home." Mr. Wang was stunned for a moment and looked her over carefully. The girl in front of him didn't look as delicate as the rumors said, but her skin was very fair and smooth. She looked like a young model raised in the town, with a graceful figure. The experience from last night was not bad either. He stroked his beard and sneered. "Stop pretending. Ling Ryue was personally sent here by your father, so how could there be a mistake? Your father took 30 taels of silver from me and already sold you. Impossible. My father would never sell me." Ling Ryu cried desperately, but no matter how she argued, Mr. Wang only thought she was playing hard to get. He impatiently threw a few coins of broken silver and turned to leave. "Behave yourself. If you cause trouble again, I'll throw you into the storeroom." Ling Ryu curled up in the corner of the bed, feeling hopeless. She couldn't understand how she, who was sleeping inside her room, suddenly appeared here and was violated by this wicked old man. At the same time, at Ling Ryu's home in the town, Ma Xiulan waited anxiously for her daughter to wake up. When she went to the room and saw it was empty, her heart sank. The bed was bare, and the window was slightly open. She panicked immediately. "Ryue, something's wrong. Ryu is missing." Ling Ryue had just returned from Mr. Wang's house, thinking about the poetry gathering, when she heard the news and felt her heart sink. How could she be missing? Wasn't she fine last night? They searched the town all day, but found nothing. Just as they were at their wits' end, a servant from Mr. Wang's house came hurriedly, looking strange, and said, "Master Ling, my master wants you to come to his house. Your daughter is causing trouble there, demanding to go home." Ling Ryue's heart skipped a beat. She hurriedly followed the servant to Mr. Wang's house. When she entered the back courtyard and saw her daughter, disheveled and with tears on her face, she was struck like lightning. "Ryu, how are you here?" "Father," Ling Ryu threw herself into his arms, crying as she explained everything. "Last night I was sleeping at home. I don't know who knocked me out, and when I woke up, I was here. That Mr. Wang also harmed me." Ling Ryue felt her blood boil. She turned sharply to Mr. Wang. Mr. Wang, I brought you Ling Yao, so how could this be my daughter? What do you mean? Mr. Wang also got angry. Ling Ruyue, do you still have the nerve to ask? It was clearly you who personally sent her here. Now you're trying to blame me? If this girl wasn't so delicate and tender, I would make you compensate me for my loss. Two people argued endlessly. Ling Russian suddenly remembered last night when he took Ling Yao into the house. The girl was unconscious, and her face was mostly covered with cloth. The more he thought about it, the more suspicious he became. A terrible idea came to him. Surely Ling Yu, that little troublemaker, was behind this. She must have swapped Ling Yao during the night and replaced her with Ryu. Goodness, Ling Yu. Ling Russian gritted his teeth and punched the pillar hard. I will never forgive you. Then, with his crying daughter, Ling Russian angrily rushed back to Ling's village. Ma Xiaolan was crying and scolding along the way, attracting the attention of passers-by. When they reached Granny Wang's house, Ling Russian kicked open the gate. Granny Wang was happily counting 30 taels of silver. Seeing their state, she quickly stood up. Russian, Ryu, what happened? What's wrong? Ma Xiaolan stepped forward and tore at Granny Wang's hair. It's all your old idea. Selling Ling Yao, and that little troublemaker Ling Yu swapped her and sent Ryu to be mistreated by Mr.
Wang.
You must restore my daughter's innocence. Granny Wang was pulled and grimaced, trembling with anger after hearing everything. That little brat. She's really gone too far. How dare she ruin my plans and harm Ryu? Let's go and settle this with her. A group of people hurried to the ancestral home at the west end of the village. At this moment, Ling Yu was teaching Ling Xingchen how to stand firmly. Zhao and Ling Yao were embroidering inside. Suddenly, loud noises erupted outside the courtyard. Ling Xingchen clenched his fists and stood in front of the door. What are you trying to do? Move aside. Granny Wang pushed him away and led her people into the yard. She pointed at Ling Yu's nose and scolded loudly. Little troublemaker. How dare you swap Ling Yao and send Ryu to be humiliated at Mr. Wang's house? What kind of wicked heart do you have? Ling Yu stopped her work, her eyes cold as ice. Granny Wang, you can eat your fill but shouldn't speak nonsense. It was you all who colluded to trick my sister into being sold to Mr. Wang as a concubine. I saved my sister. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? Ling Russian glared at her angrily, almost spitting fire from his eyes. You save your sister, but why do you take my daughter to blame? If it weren't for your tricks, how could Ryu suffer such a disaster? You must give me an explanation. An explanation? Ling Yu sneered, her voice suddenly rising. Human trafficking is a heinous crime. My sister was almost pushed into a fire pit. I only used their own methods to fight back. As for Ryu, that was your own mistake. Don't blame others. You still dare to argue. Ma Xiaolan screamed and lunged forward, trying to tear apart Ling Yu, but Ling Xingchen quickly stopped her. Ma Xiaolan fell to the ground, kicking and rolling around, crying out, "Why is my life so hard? My daughter was harmed, and the culprit is so arrogant. Everyone, please judge this fairly." The villagers nearby were drawn by the noise and started talking. Some felt sorry for Ling Ryu's situation, while others disapproved of Wang Pozi and Ling Russian's actions, criticizing, "It's your fault. Buying and selling people is illegal. Now you're suffering the consequences and still causing trouble." Exactly. Ling Yu was right to save her sister. If anyone's to blame, it's your greed. The village chief also arrived quickly. Seeing the chaos, he scowled and shouted, "Everyone stop. Wang Shi, Ling Russian, you've broken the law by buying and selling people. Ling Yu was just saving her sister, and she did nothing wrong. If you cause trouble again, I will report you to the authorities." Ling Russian's face turned pale and then red. He knew the village chief was telling the truth. If this went to the officials, he could lose his reputation and even end up in jail. But seeing his daughter looking so wronged, he was unwilling to accept it. Does my daughter have to suffer all this unfairness? Unfairness, Ling Yu said coldly. This unfairness is your own doing. If you hadn't been so greedy and tried to exchange my sister for money, none of this would have happened. If you want compensation, go ask Mr. Wang. He's the one who harmed your daughter, not me. Wang Pozi and Ling Rushan were speechless, looking at the villagers' disdainful gazes. They couldn't stay any longer. Wang Pozi glared at Ling Yu fiercely. You wait and see. This isn't over. After saying that, she left with her people, looking defeated. Ling Yao hid behind Zhao's back, watching Ling Yu's back with gratitude in her eyes. Ling Yu turned around and gently patted her hand to comfort her. Sister, don't be afraid. I'm here. No one can bully you now. Zhao also sighed in relief, holding Ling Yu's hand. You must be careful from now on. They definitely won't give up easily. Ling Yu nodded, a sharp glint flashing in her eyes. She knew this was only a temporary calm. Wang Pozi and Ling Rushan's family would never stop. But she was already prepared. No matter how many times they come back, she would make them pay the price they deserved. Just as the trouble in Ling's village settled down, another storm arose at Lord Wang's mansion in the county city. Ling Rushan, with tearful red eyes and trembling body, once again visited with a stern face. Behind him, Ma Xiulan clenched her fists, her eyes full of resentment, but also a hint of greed. When Wang Yuanwei heard he had returned, he glanced at Ling Ruyu's delicate, well-cared-for skin, recalling last night's experience. Seeing her now timid and tearful, he couldn't help but want to bully her again. He squinted his dull eyes, staring fixedly at Ling Ryu, and a lecherous smile appeared on his face. Mr. Ling, are you returning her to me? I'll take her. Please go back now. He reached out to try to embrace Ling Ryu. Stop right there, Ling Rushan sneered, pulling Ling Ryu behind him to block Wang Yuanwei's hand. Wang Yuanwei, this is my daughter Ling Ryu, not Ling Yao. You've already taken her innocence, but that doesn't mean you can take advantage of her for free. My family's daughter will never suffer humiliation for nothing. Wang Yuanwei stroked his chin, thinking quickly. Although Ling Ryu was not the original choice, Ling Yao, she had smooth skin and a graceful figure. Especially now, her pitiful look made him feel greedy. He pretended to ponder and asked, What do you want? Very simple, Ling Rushan extended a finger. Make a written agreement that officially sells Ryu to me as a concubine. From now on, her life and health will have nothing to do with the Ling family. But you must add another 100 taels of silver, and this matter will be settled. 100 taels? Wang Yuanwei raised an eyebrow, already pleased. Such a desirable girl was worth a little more money. But he deliberately frowned, pretending to be reluctant. Mr. Ling, your appetite is quite big. 50 taels, no more than that. Ling Rushan's face darkened, pretending to be firm. Wang Yuanwei, Ryu was raised in the county town, and is much more valuable than Ling Yao. Less than 100 taels, and I'd rather go to the authorities to accuse you of kidnapping a good girl, ruining your reputation and your poetry gatherings. A flash of cruelty crossed Wang Yuanwei's eyes, but he quickly suppressed it. He looked at Ling Ryu's fair neck, imagining how he could humiliate her in the future, and finally relented.
Fine.
Since I like Ryu, I'll pay 100 taels. But the sale contract must clearly state that she is voluntarily becoming a concubine. No matter how I treat her in the future, your Ling family must not interfere. Ling Rushan was overjoyed. Without hesitation, he nodded.
Good.
As Wang Yuanwei says. At once, Wang Yuanwei ordered someone to bring the 100 taels of silver and paper and ink. Ling Rushan took the heavy silver, his fingers trembling, and without hesitation, he signed the contract of sale and pressed his thumbprint carefully. Ma Xiulan looked at her daughter's numb, empty eyes, her lips moved, but in the end, she was blinded by the silver and said nothing. Ling Ryu watched her father's cold side profile. Tears silently fell, soaking her clothes. She had become a tool for her father to gain fame and money. The days ahead would probably be worse than death. Ling Rushan clutched the silver and left Lord Wang's residence without looking back, as if the crying girl behind him had nothing to do with him. He thought that with this 100 taels of silver, he could support himself in the imperial exams and buy some gifts to gain favor. As for Ling Ryu, she was just an expendable pawn. Meanwhile, Inside the old family house at the west end of the village, there was a warm and lively atmosphere. Ling Lao Er's leg recovered quickly thanks to spiritual spring water and bone-strengthening pills, and now he could walk slowly with a cane. He watched Ling Yu teaching Ling Xingchen to practice boxing in the yard, full of pride. "Yue, it's all thanks to you that my leg is healing so fast." Ling Yu smiled and stopped her movements, walking over to support her father to sit down. "Dad, this is what I should do. After I fell into the water, Lord Yama not only let me escape death but also taught me some ways to make money." Zhao carried out freshly cooked chicken soup, curious, and asked, "Lord Yama taught you how to make money? Yue, what are those methods?" "Mother, they are all safe ways to earn a living," Ling Yu said with a smile as she scooped a bowl of chicken soup and handed it to her father. "When Dad's leg is fully healed, I will teach you how to make tofu and braised meat. I also know some new snacks. We can make them at home and sell them in town. They will definitely be popular." Ling Lao Er drank the warm chicken soup, feeling warm inside, and nodded repeatedly. "Good.
Good.
Dad listens to you. As long as it can make you and the others live a good life, I am willing to endure any hardship." Ling Yao also put down her embroidery and softly said, "My sister is so capable. Our family will definitely get better and better." "That's natural." Ling Yu's eyes sparkled. "Once we earn enough money, we will repair the old house properly, fix the leaky roof, and build a wall around the yard. Then we will buy some fertile land to grow crops and vegetables. Later, we will save enough dowry and bride price for brother and sister, so that Dad and Mom won't have to live under others' eyes anymore." A family sat together, talking happily about their future. The worries of the past had disappeared, replaced by hope and joy. In the distant capital city, inside the palace, Xiao Ju, dressed in a black dragon robe, stood inside the Hall of Supreme Harmony. He was reporting to the current emperor, Xiao Yan, about the danger they faced during the southern tour. Xiao Yan and Xiao Ju are brothers, sharing a close bond. When he heard that his brother had been secretly attacked, his face darkened instantly. "Someone dared to harm my brother. Find out who did this. Investigate thoroughly and catch the mastermind. Execute them by beheading." "Thank you, brother," Xiao Ju said respectfully, his voice calm. "Thanks to a kind woman from the common people who saved me. Without her help, I might not be alive today." Xiao Yan was curious. "Oh? What kind of brave woman was able to save you?" "The warrior." Xiao Ju's mind automatically thought of Ling Yu, the brave girl in the snow, holding a strange weapon, with sharp eyes like blades but also a gentle warmth. A faint smile appeared on his face. "She is a clever, brave, and kind-hearted girl. When the time is right, I will bring her to meet you, brother." The two brothers discussed some state affairs before Xiao Ju took his leave to visit the Empress Dowager at Sinang Palace. When she saw him safe and sound, she cried tears of joy, holding his hand and asking about his safety. "My son, you've finally returned. From now on, you must not take such risks again. It worries Mother, and it's my fault," Xiao Ju said softly to comfort her. After some polite talk, the Empress Dowager changed the subject, her eyes full of hope. "Juer, you are 25 now. Your side has been empty all this time, and I can't help but worry. The daughter of the Minister of War, gentle and wise, the daughter of the Minister of Rights, educated and understanding, and a noble lady from the Duke's family, beautiful and charming. All are excellent choices. I want to arrange a marriage for you. What do you think?" Hearing this, Xiao Ju's mind again flashed with Ling Yu's image, the brave girl in the snow, standing firm, her concern when she brought food in the cave, and her clear yet sharp eyes. These memories were deeply imprinted in his heart. He paused for a moment, then looked at the Empress Dowager with firm eyes. "Mother, thank you for your kindness, but I have someone I like already. I cannot accept this arrangement." The Empress Dowager was surprised, then her eyes lit up with joy. "Oh? My son has someone he likes?
Who is she?
What is her family background? Her looks and character? Tell me everything." Xiao Ju remembered that Ling Yu might not know her true identity or her feelings. A gentle smile appeared in his eyes. "Mother, she is not from a noble family. She is just a girl from a farming family, but she is kind-hearted and very smart. She doesn't know the feelings of my younger brother yet. When he wins her over, he will bring her to greet you. I ask for your permission to marry her." Although the Empress Dowager was surprised that he liked a common girl, she saw the seriousness in his eyes and no longer insisted. "All right. As long as my son likes her, I have no objections. Go and pursue her. If she agrees, I will personally support your marriage." Xiao Ju bowed to thank her, but he was already planning. After finishing his work in the capital, he would leave immediately for Yongzhou Prefecture. No matter what, he had to find the girl who saved him and had also taken a place in his heart. Meanwhile, in Lingjia village, Lingyu was practicing morning exercises with Ling Xingqian in the yard. She didn't know that far away in the imperial palace, a powerful warlord king, who held the entire world in his hands, had already remembered her deeply in his heart. He was preparing to cross mountains and rivers to come to her. Outside the imperial garden in the capital, spring was in the air. Xiao Ju had just finished handling the aftermath of a dangerous southern tour. He was about to leave the palace to prepare his luggage for the journey back to Yongzhou when a charming yet strong figure stopped him. Brother Xiao Ju, Su Wanqing, the eldest daughter of the Minister of War, hurried forward, holding her skirt. Her hairpin swayed, and she wore a confident smile. "I heard you returned safely. I waited here on purpose. The Empress Dowager already said she would make me her princess consort. You can't forget about that." Xiao Ju frowned slightly and spoke coldly. "Miss Su, the Empress Dowager only mentioned it casually. No marriage agreement has been made. Please show some respect. How can it be just casual?" Su Wanqing's face darkened, and her tone sharpened. "Everyone in the capital knows I have a marriage agreement with you. Just now, I heard a palace maid say you told the Empress Dowager you already have someone you like. Who is she? Which shameless girl dares to compete with me for Xiao Ju?" She had been spoiled since childhood and was a famous beauty in the capital. She always thought she was the only one worthy of the young and famous war hero Xiao Ju. Now, hearing that he had feelings for someone else, she was filled with jealousy. Her eyes sharpened like blades. "Brother Xiao Ju, tell me who she is. No matter which family she comes from, I will make her understand what happens when someone tries to steal you from me." Su Wanqing. Xiao Ju's eyes turned cold, and his aura suddenly tightened. "Miss Su, this matter has nothing to do with you. If you dare to speak nonsense again, don't blame me for being rude." After saying that, he turned sideways, bypassed Su Wanqing, and left directly. Su Wanqing watched his determined back, trembling with anger, her nails digging deep into her palms.
"Fine.
"If you won't tell me, I'll find out myself. I want to see who dares to ruin my plans." She immediately turned around and ordered the maid beside her. "Go investigate. Check carefully who Xiao Ju has contacted during his trip, especially those from the common people. Don't let anyone slip away." The maid quickly responded, but secretly cursed. The war god prince always acts secretly, and this kind of thorough investigation is very difficult. Meanwhile, inside the ancestral house of the Ling family village, strong bean aroma was filling the air. Old Second Ling's leg had fully healed thanks to the spiritual spring water and bone-repairing pills. He could walk normally now, and his strength was much greater than before. At this moment, he was learning to grind soy milk with Lingyu, looking very focused. "Dad, when grinding soy milk, you need to go in one direction with even force. That way, the soy milk will be smooth," Lingyu said while guiding him, holding a piece of cloth. "After grinding, filter it with a cloth to separate the soy pulp. That makes the soy milk pure." Mrs. Zhao and Ling Yao were helping to light the fire and wash the utensils. Ling Xingqian was responsible for carrying the soaked soybeans. The family worked together efficiently, busy and lively. You said these vegetables are good, so why suddenly say they can't be found in the mountains?" Mrs. Zhao asked while adding firewood, looking puzzled. Previously, Lingyu had delivered vegetables to the restaurant, and business was good. Suddenly, it stopped, which made her a little disappointed. Lingyu smiled and explained, "Mom, the weather is getting warmer. The wild vegetables in the mountains are old now and taste bad. The restaurant won't want them anymore. But don't worry, we can make more money selling tofu instead of vegetables." She had already planned that vegetables could only be sold temporarily because they might attract suspicion. Tofu, being a common food in the folk, has many ways to make, and it's harder to reveal the secret of the spiritual spring space. She just needed to add a little spiritual spring water secretly when soaking soybeans and boiling soy milk, which would make the tofu taste much better than usual. While they were talking, the soy milk was ready. After filtering, it was poured into a large pot to boil. The white foam was rolling, and the rich bean aroma spread throughout the yard, attracting children from the neighbors' houses to peek over the wall. Lingyu waited for the soy milk to boil. She scooped out some to cool, then added the prepared brine, gently stirred everything together, and poured it into a wooden box lined with cloth. She pressed a heavy object on top. Next, we just need to let it sit and set. In about an hour, fresh and tender tofu will be ready. Second brother Ling watched the boiling soy milk with excitement in his eyes. Once the tofu is done, how can we eat it? There are many ways to enjoy it. Ling Yu's eyes sparkled as she explained. The simplest is cold tofu salad. Cut some soft tofu, sprinkle salt, drizzle sesame oil, and add chopped green onions. It's fresh and tasty. You can also make braised tofu with pork belly, letting the tofu soak up the meat juices and become soft and flavorful. Or, cut the tofu into small pieces and fry them until crispy outside and tender inside, then sprinkle with chili salt for a delicious snack. We can also make tofu pudding to sell in town in the morning, served with pickles and chili oil. People will love it. The family nodded happily. Ling Xingchen swallowed hard. That sounds so delicious. Once it's ready, I want to try the cold tofu first. Ling Yao also smiled. If we sell it in town, I'm sure many people will buy it. Ling Yu nodded. Once we get the hang of making it, we can carry it to town to sell. Also, shopkeeper Lee from the Welcome Guest House has always bought our vegetables. We can supply our tofu to the restaurant there, which will give us a steady market. About an hour later, Ling Yu removed the heavy weight from the wooden box and lifted the cloth. Smooth, white, tender blocks of tofu appeared, giving off a faint soy aroma. She used a knife to cut the tofu into small pieces, picked a few to put in a bowl, sprinkled salt, chopped green onions, drizzled sesame oil, and handed it out. Everyone, try it and see how it tastes. Second brother Ling was the first to take a piece and put it in his mouth. The tofu melted instantly, with a rich soy flavor and a hint of sweetness, better than any tofu he had ever eaten. He nodded repeatedly. Delicious. So good. Your cooking skills are amazing. Mrs. Zhao, Ling Yao, and Ling Xingchen also tasted and praised it highly. The yard was filled with laughter and joy, the aroma of soy and happiness blending together, making the simple farmyard lively and full of life. The next morning, Ling Yu packed a large piece of soft tofu and some old tofu. Ling Xingchen carried them on his shoulders, while she and second brother carried the tofu pudding and remaining tofu to town. They first went around to the guest reception building. Shopkeeper Lee was worried about not having fresh ingredients to create new dishes. When he smelled the strong bean aroma, he immediately came out to greet them. Young Miss Ling Yu, you didn't bring any greens today. What good things did you bring? Shopkeeper Lee, this is our homemade tofu. Please try some, Ling Yu said, handing over a piece of soft tofu. It's made with mountain spring water, so it tastes much better than ordinary tofu. It can be used in cold dishes, braised dishes, or fried. Would you like to try some? Shopkeeper Lee took a bite, and his eyes lit up instantly. Amazing! This tofu is so tender. The bean flavor is strong. All right, I want all of this tofu. Send me 20 jin every day, half soft tofu and half firm tofu. The price will be the same as what you sell to others. Thank you, Shopkeeper Lee. Ling Yu was very happy and quickly agreed. After solving the supply for the guest reception building, they headed to the street corner to sell. As soon as they arrived, the rich bean aroma attracted many passers-by. Someone asked curiously, "This tofu looks so white and tender. How much does it cost?" Soft tofu is 3 coins per piece, firm tofu is 2 coins per piece, and tofu pudding is 1 coin per bowl, served with pickled vegetables and chili oil, Ling Yu replied with a smile. She casually cut a small piece of tofu and handed it over. Uncle, try some. If you don't like it, you don't have to pay. The passerby took a bite and nodded immediately. Delicious. So tender. Give me 10 pieces of soft tofu. With the first customer, business became easier. Soon, a crowd gathered around. Some bought tofu to cook at home. Others sat nearby eating tofu pudding, all praising the taste. In less than an hour, 2 buckets of tofu and tofu pudding were sold out. Ling Lao Er looked at the heavy coins in his hands, his face full of happiness and pride. He never thought he could make money from such a business, and all of this was thanks to his daughter, Ling Yu. But they didn't notice that not far away, in an alley, a figure was staring at them intently, an informant sent by Granny Wang. When Granny Wang learned that Ling Yu's family was making tofu and supplying the town's restaurants, she was furious, grinding her teeth. That little brat. She's getting more capable. No, I can't let her live so comfortably. Her eyes turned cold, and a wicked idea flashed through her mind again. Meanwhile, in the capital, Xiao Ju had already shaken off Su Wanqing's harassment. He was quietly on his way to Yongzhou Prefecture with a few trusted followers. Sitting in the carriage, his mind kept replaying Ling Yu's image, filled with anticipation. Ling Yu, I'm coming. A new trouble is quietly approaching Lingjia village. Meanwhile, Ling Yu's family is still happy about their tofu business and hasn't noticed the danger coming. The smell of tofu from Lingjia village has spread for over a month, and Ling Yu's business is getting busier. Visitors line up in town, and the orders at the welcome and have increased from 20 to 30 pounds a day. Their savings are growing into heavy silver coins. When Zhao counts the money, she smiles happily, unable to hide her joy. After breakfast, Ling Yu cuts 2 ounces of fine meat from the new pork and picks a piece of the whitest, freshest tofu. She wraps it in a lotus leaf and gives it to second Uncle Ling as he leaves. Dad, please take this to the village chief. First, ask him to help find skilled workers to build our house. Second, invite Aunt Wu, Aunt Li, and Aunt Wang to cook for the builders as a thank you for their help before. Third, ask if there is any suitable land for sale. Also, tell the village chief that we want to help our neighbors get rich. Anyone who wants to sell tofu can buy from us at 2 coins less per jean than the market price. Second Uncle Ling takes the lotus leaf and nods seriously.
Got it, Dad.
I'll go now. He puts the money in his pocket, picks up the package, and quickly heads to the village chief's house, walking briskly. When he reaches the village chief's yard, he hears the sound of washing clothes. He knocks on the door, and Aunt Wu's voice comes out. Soon the door opens. Seeing him, Aunt Wu smiles and greets, Second Uncle. Come in and sit. Aunt Wu, is the village chief at home? Second Uncle Ling lifts the lotus leaf. This is a small gift from you, heir, and I have a few things to ask the village chief. Aunt Wu hesitates but sees his firm attitude and accepts the gift. She smiles and says, You're such a good kid coming over with gifts. Your uncle is inside. I'll go call him. Hearing that Second Uncle Ling is here, the village chief quickly puts down his work and comes out. Second Uncle Ling speaks directly. Village chief, our family wants to hire some skilled workers to tear down the old house and rebuild it. We also want a bigger yard and a well. Please also keep an eye out for any suitable land for sale. We plan to buy a few acres. The village chief is both surprised and happy. He strokes his beard and laughs. That's great. Your family is doing well, which is good for the village. I'll handle the house building. I know good bricklayers and carpenters from nearby villages, skilled and fair. I'll also look for good land with rich soil and a good location and tell you as soon as I find some. Thank you so much, Uncle Village Chief, Old Secondling added. There's one more thing. When we split up and moved, and when troubles happened at home, Aunt Wu and the others helped a lot. Now we're building a new house and need people to cook. Yue wants to invite them to help, paying 20 coins a day and 2 meals, as a way to thank them. Aunt Wu heard this and quickly waved her hand. We're all neighbors from the same village. Helping out is just what friends do. No need to pay. Uncle Wu, we can't pay less, Old Secondling said firmly. If they agree to help, we're grateful. We won't let them work for nothing. The village chief nodded and said, All right, I'll cover for them. I'll go tell Aunt Li and Aunt Wang to come tomorrow. Old Secondling then said, Village chief, I have one more thing to discuss. Yue sees that many villagers are struggling, so she wants to help everyone get richer. From now on, anyone who wants to sell tofu can buy from us. We can earn 2 coins per pound, and selling in nearby villages and towns will surely make money. Once the house is built and settled, please explain this to everyone. The village chief clapped his thigh and praised. Yue is thoughtful. She always cares about the villagers. That's a blessing for our village. I'll remember this and tell everyone when the time is right. Old Second Ling thanked the village chief several times, made sure everything was arranged, and then happily went home. News about the Ling family's new house and land spread quickly through the village. Many villagers, seeing their steady income, went from envy to jealousy, whispering that the Ling family was hiding away to make money. Some, influenced secretly by Granny Wang, felt even more upset, thinking the Ling family was keeping all the benefits for themselves. At dusk, just after the Ling family finished their work and before the gate was closed, a group of villagers gathered around, looking unhappy. Granny Wang stood at the front, hands on her hips, shouting loudly, "Old Second Ling,
Yue,
have you forgotten your roots just because you're making money? You're all from the same village. When your lives get better, do you forget about your neighbors? Hiding ways to make money, do you have a conscience?" The villagers echoed. "Exactly. Old Second, your tofu business is so good. Why not share it with everyone? We're all neighbors. How can only your family be rich while we stay poor?" Zhao's face turned pale with fear. She quickly grabbed Yue. Old Second Ling frowned and stepped forward, speaking seriously. "Everyone, let's talk nicely. No need to be so aggressive." Yue looked calm and was about to speak when the village chief hurried over. Seeing the noisy scene at the gate, he shouted sternly, "What are you all arguing about? What's this behavior? This is not proper." The village chief turned to the villagers with a serious tone. "What are you all making such a fuss about? Old Ling told me yesterday that Yue has already planned to help everyone make money." The villagers were stunned, their anger frozen on their faces. Granny Wang was momentarily confused, then shouted sharply, "Chief, don't speak for them. If they really wanted to help everyone earn money, they would have done it already, not waited until now." "Shut up." The chief glared at Granny Wang and continued, "Old Ling told me clearly that from now on, any family wanting to sell tofu can buy from his house at 2 cents cheaper than the market price in the county. If they work hard for a month, they can earn a few hundred coins." He wanted to wait until his house was built to tell everyone officially. But you all were incited to cause trouble. Hearing this, the villagers' dissatisfaction turned into shame. They lowered their heads one by one, especially those influenced by Granny Wang, who wished they could disappear into the ground. "So Old Ling was thinking of us all along. We misunderstood and caused trouble. That was wrong, all because of Granny Wang, who is stirring up trouble behind the scenes. We wrongly accused good people." Everyone started criticizing Granny Wang. Aunt Lee stepped forward with a frown. "Granny Wang, you've gone too far. Someone invited me to cook and paid me well, and they're thinking of helping everyone earn money. Yet you're stirring up trouble behind their back." Booing in agreement, Aunt Wang said, "Exactly. You have bad intentions, jealous of others' success, and you want us to misunderstand good people. That's just wrong." Granny Wang blushed and wanted to defend herself, but the village chief cut her off sharply. "Mrs. Wang, you've repeatedly caused trouble for the second household and incited villagers to cause chaos and ruin our village's reputation. Today, according to village rules, you'll be punished by kneeling in the ancestral hall for a day to reflect. If you dare to cause more trouble, you will be expelled from Ling village." Terrified, Granny Wang trembled and dared not resist. The village chief's words carried weight in the village. Being expelled meant losing her home. Unwilling, she glared at Yue and drooped her head as she followed the chief to the ancestral hall. The disturbance was over. The villagers apologized to Old Ling and Yue. Old Ling smiled and waved his hand. "Everyone, it's okay. We all just want to earn more money and live better. Once my house is built, the supply arrangements will be settled. Everyone can buy according to their ability, and together we'll make a good life." Hearing this, the villagers happily dispersed. A few days later, the builders arrived with tools. The old ancestral house was torn down, and the new foundation was quickly laid. Aunt Wu, Aunt Li, and Aunt Wang came as promised to cook. Ling Yu paid the workers on time. The meals were plentiful, and the aunts worked especially hard, making sure the workers' food was well taken care of. Second brother Ling was walking around the fields with the village chief. He finally chose 3 fertile plots at the east end of the village, totaling 5 acres, which he bought for 50 taels of silver. Standing by the new fields and looking at the new house being built nearby, second brother Ling felt very emotional. He turned to Ling Yu and said, "You, I never thought I could live such a good life." Ling Yu smiled and linked her arm with her father's. "Father, this is just the beginning. Once the house is finished and everyone starts buying from us to sell tofu, our village will become rich, and no one will dare to bully us anymore." Zhao came over, looking happy. "Yes, we won't have to live in leaky old houses anymore, and we won't have to depend on others' opinions." In the heat of summer, the sun shone on the western part of Ling's village. A brand new blue brick house rose from the ground. The yard was neatly built with blue stones, and a bright red door had a fresh, good fortune character on it. In front of the house, freshly harvested soybeans were drying in the sun, their full grains shining golden, filling the air with a rich bean aroma and a festive feeling. Look at how straight the windows and doors are." Second brother Ling stood at the main hall door of the new house, touching the smooth wooden frame with a smile. After more than 2 months of hard work, the new house was finally finished. The 5 main rooms were spacious and bright. The east and west side rooms served as the kitchen and storage. In the yard, a deep well was dug, with clear, sweet water. A small vegetable garden was planted in the corner, growing greens and tomatoes, full of life. Ling Yu walked around the yard and nodded happily. "Father, your craftsmanship is really good, even better than we expected. From now on, we won't have to live in a leaky, broken thatched house." Zhao was directing Ling Xingchen and Ling Yao to move things into the side rooms. She also smiled and agreed. "Yes, living in this new house makes us feel safe. It's all thanks to you that we can live such a good life." Just then, outside the yard, there was a lively noise. More than 10 villagers came carrying baskets. Leading them was Huzi from Wang Auntie's family. "Ling Yu, we're here to buy supplies." Huzi, loud and cheerful, hurried into the yard with an empty basket. "This new house is so grand. From now on, we'll come every day to share in the good luck." Other villagers also nodded in agreement, their faces full of envy. Since Ling Yu suggested that villagers buy tofu from her family, many households in the village became interested. Ling Yu's tofu is tasty and well-known. She supplies it at 2 coins less per jean than the market price. Villagers sell it in nearby villages or towns, earning 2 coins profit per jean. Hardworking people can make over 100 coins a day, which is much more profitable than farming. Ling Yu happily greeted everyone, saying, "Brother Huzi, uncles and aunts, come in and rest a while. Have some water." She turned to let Ling Yao bring cold tea, then directed Ling Xingchen to carry the fresh and aged tofu from the storage room. "Today's tofu is all fresh. Just take the amount we agreed on. The account book is here. Remember to sign after collecting." Villagers lined up in order to take tofu. Some wrapped it in lotus leaves, others packed it in bamboo baskets, and kept thanking her. "Ling Yu, thanks to you for helping us make money. Life is looking better. Yes, the money I made selling tofu these days is more than what I earned from half a month of farming." The lively voices filled the yard, creating a scene of prosperity. At this moment, a modestly decorated but clearly luxurious carriage slowly stopped outside Ling Yu's house. The curtain was gently lifted, and a man dressed in a moon-white brocade robe stepped down. He was tall, handsome, and from the capital. It's Xiao Ju. He was followed by 2 trusted men in black, swords at their waists, looking serious. Xiao Ju stood at the door, his gaze passing over the busy crowd, finally resting on the young girl in the yard. A gentle warmth flickered in his eyes. After a few months, Ling Yu looked less naive and more calm and capable. Her commanding the villagers to collect goods made her look especially bright. He adjusted his robe, then slowly approached and knocked softly on the door. Ling Yu heard the noise, turned around, and saw Xiao Ju. She was surprised, her eyes flashing with recognition. "It's you?" She remembered the injured man she had saved deep in the mountains. Xiao Ju nodded slightly, smiling kindly. "Miss Ling, I hope you're well. I am grateful for your help that day, and have not been able to repay you. I happened to pass by here, and came to visit. May I trouble you for a moment?" Old Ling and Zhao also came over. Seeing Xiao Ju dressed so finely and with a noble air, they hurriedly said politely, "Young master, please come in. You, pour some tea for him." Xiao Ju entered the yard, his gaze calm as he looked over everyone, finally settling on Old Ling. At this moment, he suddenly felt a shock in his heart, and his pupils slightly contracted. Old General Ling's features and outlines surprisingly resembled those of General Chu Jingyuan in his youth. General Chu Jingyuan was a founding hero of the Great Shao dynasty, with many military achievements, and was highly trusted by the emperor. When Xiao Ju was young, he trained at the general's residence and saw a portrait of the young general, leaving a deep impression. He also heard that over 20 years ago, the general lost a newborn son, which caused him great grief. For many years, he sent people to search everywhere but found no news.
Could it be?
Old Second Ling is the lost son of the general? Xiao Ju's heart was stirred like a storm, but he kept his expression calm and followed Old Second Ling into the main hall. Ling Yao brought cold tea. Xiao Ju took it and thanked him, then took a gentle sip before speaking softly. "Miss Ling, on that day in the deep mountains, I was very grateful for your help. I've always remembered your kindness. This time, I came mainly to thank you. Also, because of official business, I need to stay nearby for a few days. I wonder if your family can accommodate me? I will pay double for the stay." Ling Yu hesitated a little. Xiao Ju's identity was unclear, and staying at their home might cause trouble. But then he thought, this person had helped her before, and judging by his demeanor, he didn't seem like a bad person. Moreover, their new house was spacious, with extra rooms, so hosting one person wouldn't be a problem. Before Ling Yu could speak, Old Second Ling spoke first. "Young master, you're joking. How can we talk about money when it comes to saving a life? We have spare rooms at home, so please stay. It's just a simple farmyard with humble conditions, so I hope you won't mind." "Thank you, uncle, for your kindness," Xiao Ju said happily, quickly expressing his gratitude. He wanted to stay overnight to further confirm Old Second Ling's identity. Seeing that his father had agreed, Ling Yu no longer objected and said to Ling Xingqian, "Brother, go tidy up the east room for the guest." Ling Xingqian responded and left. Xiao Ju sat in the main hall, chatting casually with Old Second Ling, deliberately asking about his background. Old Second Ling sighed and looked downcast as he said, "To be honest, I don't know who my biological parents are. Over 20 years ago, I was adopted by Old Ling and his wife, and I always thought they were my real parents. Only recently did I find out I was stolen from them." Xiao Ju's suspicion grew stronger. Old Second Ling was very likely the son General Chu Jingyuan lost. He quietly comforted Old Second Ling a few words, then, after a brief chat, excused himself, citing fatigue from the journey, and went to rest in the east room. Back in the side room, Xiao Ju immediately dismissed everyone and took out paper, ink, and a brush from his sleeve. He quickly wrote a letter, explaining in detail how he met second young Master Ling in Lingjia village, describing his appearance and how he resembles General Chu Jingyuan, as well as questioning his background. He asked the general to send someone quickly to verify the truth. After finishing the letter, he went to the window and whistled. Soon, a carrier pigeon swooped down from the sky and landed on the windowsill. Xiao Ju carefully tied the letter to the pigeon's leg, gently stroked its feathers, and softly said, "Go quickly and come back soon." The pigeon flapped its wings and flew off into the sky, disappearing quickly. Xiao Ju stood by the window, looking out at the night, and thought silently, "Second young Master Ling, are you really the general's son? If so, the fate of the Ling family might change forever." Meanwhile, in the main hall, Ling Yu was talking to second young Master Ling and Mrs. Zhao. She said, "Father, Mother, This young Mr. Xiao is not an ordinary person. We should be more careful. Mrs. Zhao nodded and said, yes, just by his clothes, you can tell he's not an ordinary man. But he seems quite kind. Second young Masterling sighed. No matter what his background is, he's our benefactor. We should treat him well. As night deepened, Lingjia village fell silent. Only the new house of Lingyu still had a few oil lamps burning, illuminating the upcoming mystery of her background and hinting at an impending change of fate. The hot summer sun made the ground scorchingly hot, but Lingyu's tofu shop was cool and refreshing. The tofu, soaked in well water, was white and smooth, and the freshly made tofu pudding smelled tempting. Villagers lined up from the courtyard gate to the alley end to buy it. At the Old Ling family house in the east of the village, chaos reigned. Old Ling sat on the doorstep smoking a dry pipe, his face pale with anger. Granny Wang crossed her arms and scolded loudly, smashing bowls and utensils. Ling Rushan sat nearby sighing, while Ma Xiulan and Aunt Wang Tsuaping argued with each other. The house was a mess. Since the second branch split from the family, no one did the heavy work anymore. Old Ling San was lazy and gluttonous. Ling Rushan was obsessed with studying the classics, and most of the crops in the field had withered. The family's expenses were barely covered by the 100 taels of silver earned from selling Ling Ryu. But now, with second young Master Ling building a new house, opening a tofu shop and earning money for the whole village, their jealousy grew wild like weeds. It's all because of that second young Master Ling. Once used to working hard at home, now that she's gained confidence, she wants to enjoy her life and leave us to suffer here. Granny Wang pounded her thigh and shouted, and that little brat Lingyu, if it weren't for her, second sister would have been sold to Master Wang long ago. Even Yushan can rely on poetry gatherings to get close to the powerful. Why are we struggling so much now? Ma Xiulan's eyes twitched, and she sneered, Mother, why don't we think of a plan to ruin their tofu business? The villagers buy from them, so if their tofu has problems, everyone will blame them. When that happens, they'll offend the whole village and have nowhere to go. They'll have to come back and serve us like slaves. Wang Tsuaping quickly agreed. That's right. Let's pretend to help them, but secretly add something to the tofu to spoil it. When it turns sour, let's see how they handle it. Old Man Ling took a puff of his cigarette and stomped out the ash. That's settled. Be careful and don't get caught. Early the next morning, Granny Wang, Ma Xiulan, and Wang Tsuaping arrived at Lingyu's tofu shop with fake smiles on their faces. Second sister, Zhao Yu, Granny Wang shouted loudly, your business is so busy. We came to help. Families should support each other. Lingyu was packing tofu into boxes. When she saw them suddenly arrive, her alarm bells rang. This family has always been selfish. Why would they suddenly come to help? They must have bad intentions. But she kept her face calm and smiled, saying, Auntie, great aunt, third aunt, thank you for your kindness. But we have enough help here, so you don't need to trouble yourselves. Oh, no need to be polite. Granny Wang pushed her way into the yard, with Ma Xiulan and Wang Tsuaping following. They looked around, their eyes constantly glancing at the containers of tofu and soy milk. We're family. Helping each other is what we should do, Ma Xiulan said, secretly pulling out a small bag of brown powder, trying to sprinkle it into the soy milk when no one was watching. Stop right there. Lingyu reacted quickly, grabbing Ma Xiulan's wrist and snatching the powder away. Great aunt, what are you doing? What is this? Seeing this, Granny Wang immediately threw herself on the ground, crying loudly and pounding the floor. Why is my life so hard? I came to help my son, but now I'm being falsely accused by my granddaughter. Lingyu, you little brat, how dare you push your great aunt and falsely accuse us? Everyone come and judge this. Ma Xiulan and Wang Tsuaping also joined in the commotion, saying, yes. We helped out kindly, but Lingyu hit someone and falsely accused others. We can't live like this anymore. The crying and shouting attracted many villagers who gathered around, talking among themselves. Lingyu sneered and raised the packet of powder in her hand. Everyone, look carefully. This is what Annie was about to put into our soy milk just now. I happened to see it and stopped her, but she falsely accused me of hitting her. The powder has a strange color and a bitter smell. If she really had put it into the soy milk, what would happen when we all drank it? They are not here to help. They are here to ruin our tofu business. The villagers leaned in to smell the powder and immediately recognized a faint bitter scent. They understood right away. So that's it. No wonder they suddenly came to help. It's not sincere. They've been causing trouble for the second house before. Now that they see others doing well, they want to cause trouble. That's too much. Seeing that the villagers weren't on her side, Granny Wang cried even harder. Don't listen to her nonsense. This is just ordinary spice. We wanted to add flavor to the tofu.